Hello, listeners and readers of AwardsWatch.com. This is the Awards Watch Podcast, episode 270. I'm your executive editor, Ryan McQuade, and joining me today is our editor-in-chief, Erik Anderson.
It's me.
Count Orlock, evidently. Karen Peterson.
Hello.
And Mark Johnson.
Hey, everybody.
It is that time, folks. It is the final predictions episode before the nominations for the Oscars. And
we hope.
Maybe. We might have another episode. We don't know. Because obviously we are recording this amidst of the wildfires going on in Los Angeles. Critics' Choice, which Erik and I and Mark were going to attend, has been postponed. It's been postponed 2 weeks. It will probably get pushed back again. And we saw that the SAG nominations were pushed a day. The PGA nominations that were supposed to be before this show were pushed for an entire week. Screenings have been canceled. Events have been canceled in the greater Los Angeles area. And the Palisades and many other places in LA have been affected deeply by this. Everyone, though, on the staff and most of our friends that we know are okay, but it still does not mean that there aren't dozens and hundreds of people, thousands of people that have been affected by this. My heart goes out to all of them. I mean, Erik and I were there. Karen lives there. Griffin lives there. Friends of mine live there. Sophia was there with us as well. And it was scary, and it's very heartbreaking. And each day brings more and more kind of sadness and heartbreak to it. Heart goes out to the first responders and everyone that are fighting these fires, the people that are still living there and are affected by the smoke and everything in the air. The constant aid that needs to be given to this area is vast, and time will tell how that will be affected and how these areas will be able to recover. We hope that is a good recovery, but again, our thoughts are with everybody right now. And yeah, Karen, I was going to kick it over to you for a second if you wanted to say something.
I just want to say that, things like this, and sorry, I've been doing fine today, but just as you were talking, I was just getting really emotional thinking about what's been happening this week and how it's affected people that I know, that I'm close with. And I just have to say that tragedies like this, there's a lot of just terrible people, but it really does bring out the best in people too. And just seeing the way communities have pulled together, the calls for aid and the answers. I mean, I yesterday spent a lot of time trying to figure out where I can go volunteer in person, and everything was full. They were turning away volunteers because there's just so many people trying to help. And that just really does it makes you feel good about where you live and about the community, and how, so many people from the outside of LA don't really understand. They think it's just kind of this disconnected place, but really this is a big small town and everybody is pulling together. And it's been beautiful to see that in the middle of this really terrible tragedy.
Yeah, no, for sure. And if you can, in your areas, send anything, check with your local authorities, check with your state authorities, donation centers. I know that there are a ton showing up in my area and the greater New York area, just kind of everywhere, are being able to send as much aids, food, supplies, whatever you can to these families that have been displaced. And we will have more updates, as time goes on. But we're also here to talk about the thing that's been put on kind of hold over the last day. And it's honestly, if you can find good distractions, it's good distractions to have through all this as well, too. And it's an award season right now that feels like it is on pause. And it feels as if we would come into an episode like this over the last couple of years that we've done it, Erik, and we would have all this information. Mark's a big collector of data. So is Karen. So is myself. And we like to have all the necessary ingredients before we can make final predictions. But that's just not going to be the case this year. Per any announcements that would have been done before if this episode had gone on just the way it was, we would have still not had BAFTAs, or we still would have probably not had, a couple of other precursors as well too. But, with certain things being delayed, obviously because of understandable circumstances, we're going to be going in here a little bit blind. So, but I am excited to talk about these, and Erik, I know you put your front runner status up on Friday, and we're going into this. How do you feel about everything, as we stand currently?
Well, I mean, looking at it purely from a, an academic place and a non-emotional place, definitely a lot of voters in this period right now are literally displaced. And the idea of, making sure that they are going to get to their computer and log into the Academy website to vote for whatever they're going to vote for is so far down on a list of priorities that I think it's going to give us potentially some very strange outlier type of possibilities. I don't know, just with the timing of it, I don't think I have anything that's too far outside of the scope of relatively safe things, even though like SAG showed us some choices that were certainly outside of many predictions.
Mm-hmm.
So I do expect and anticipate there to be some differences, and I think most clearly that will unveil itself in the international voters maybe having a little more say. They are obviously a much larger percentage of the Academy's 10,500 people now, over the last 10 years of expansion. So I think we could see some just really, really interesting, more color, more variety. And I say that, and then next Sunday, they might just be as basic as possible.
Well, that's the other thing too, Mark, is that most of us will be back next Sunday, which is wild because they pushed it back 2 days. And is that honestly, I think this is what Erik has been asking for a long time, is like not at 5 a.m. in the morning on the West Coast and not during the middle of the week. And it just kind of turned up like that. But next Sunday, a week from today, is when they are supposed to be announced. Now, obviously, that can change, and then maybe we have an updated episode of predictions. Who knows? But as of right now, Mark, Mr. Alchemist, how's everything looking on your end in terms of where you're at with all of this?
Yeah, I think Erik kind of hit it on the head with a few things there. I think the international vote's going to mean a little more this year, as it has every year in the last 5 or 6 anyway. I also wouldn't be surprised, and I'm kind of surprised that the Academy hasn't already moved their dates a little bit too. Like, I know they moved the announcement, but the Oscar voting ends Tuesday. And like you guys have said, they're displaced, and who's really getting a chance to see these films and vote? And those who do vote, it might be, which films did they prioritize and put at the top of the pile, as we say. So the SAG nominees, the Critics' Choice nominees, the Globe wins, those may have influenced some of this vote. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see almost a copy paste of what we've kind of seen so far. Yeah, so it's interesting. And, I started writing my final predictions piece last week, but, there are a lot of missing elements here. The BAFTA noms, PGA. It's really hard to predict in an already hard to predict year. So,
yeah, I mean, Karen, when we were talking a couple of weeks ago about our first predictions, Mark, you, me, and Sophia, we were at a completely different stage of the race. I mean, we were talking about a potential Wicked Best Picture, and that's still on the board. I know Mark and you had talked about Ridley Scott potentially winning. This is the sort of ebbs and flows of award season change. But for yourself, lastly, before we get into all these and everything, I know that everybody's gone through a lot, especially you this week, but where you're at with your predictions, scale of 1 to 10, how you feel?
Um, Two? I don't know.
Okay, cool.
No, I think I'm probably somewhere in the middle. I think this year what we're gonna see maybe with at least this is how I approached predicting this time around was surprisingly giving more weight to the Golden Globes than I usually would because people saw that, people celebrated things, and I think that and that's, that happened 2 days before Devastation. So I kind of considered more what did the Globes do when I was approaching certain categories here.
I'd look at a lot at BAFTA long lists and those and the European awards and the Golden Globes. Critics' Choice, whether we always malign it as like, oh, it doesn't matter, but it's a chance for televised speeches that otherwise other organizations are just not able to do. And it was going to be on E. It was going to stream on Peacock. That's gone. The SAG nominations coming out, like Mark and I think Erik said as well. They provided a healthy dose of chaos in a couple of categories, and we'll talk about those later in full, and we'll get into those as what they entailed. But I don't know. I kind of found a balance to the Oscars usually tend to not go too crazy sometimes, and they tend to, they get a little safe. They love their favorites, and I've said that over the years. It's like they love their favorite actors or favorite directors. Very hard for favorite directors this year, but definitely in the actor categories. So it's like a mixture of that. It's a mixture of them going out on a limb, maybe on some categories, and otherwise, I kind of played it a little bit safer. I felt like because in the midst of things, I think down balloting happens a lot more, where people just vote for a film they saw in every category because they didn't have the time to see it or they're just trying to fill it out quickly. And it happens for critics groups, and it happens with the Oscars, and it happens in final votings as well. So I feel like a lot of that's going to happen. I feel like there could be some surprises. There also could be some big shocking omissions that I think are going to happen a lot, and we'll talk about those. All right, let's do it. Let's talk about the Oscar predictions for this year. So I'm going to kick it over to Erik and Mark because they're the ones prepared to talk about the shorts. And I never talk about the shorts nominations because anytime I ever do that, I usually end up being 1,000% wrong. So I kick it over to the seasoned experts on the shorts. Erik, where do you see best documentary short film at this time?
Well, I mean, since we don't really have precursors for the shorts except for live action short, if BAFTA if one of those short films gets in, animated short, same thing, but also animated short has
the Annies
in the Annie.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where I always start with them. It's like if you got an Annie, then you become kind of an automatic contender for me. But otherwise, sometimes I feel like these categories, and I think we say this every year, is that if you know nothing about any of them, even though they are branch voted, a good name is going to get you a long way. And if you haven't seen any and you're just doing predicting, that's a pretty, I don't want to say fail-safe way to do it, but it's a pretty good way to do it. And since I have not seen the shorts yet, that's exactly what I did. So I am ready. Warden, Once Upon a Time in Ukraine, Incident, Michaela's Voice, A Letter to the World, and Death by Numbers. Tell me that doesn't sound like an Oscar lineup of shorts right
pretty
there.
Good.
Mark?
That's pretty good. Yeah, I've only seen 2, I think, from this category. Yeah, I saw Death by Numbers and Planet Walker, which I loved Planet Walker, and I was kind of taking a look to see how many people, on Gold Derby and other sites were predicting it, and unfortunately, no one is. So it's hard to it's hard to go with that. So I still have to see all 15 of the, I guess 13 of the 15 here, and majority of the what is it? The doc shorts. No, the life shorts. These are the doc shorts, right? I saw 14 out of 15 animated, so I have a little bit of knowledge there. But yeah, I think Eric's Eric's thought process there is pretty good. The titles are definitely something that seemed to stick out every year. So I had right now I have Once Upon a Time in Ukraine. Sounds timely. I always like to go with a film that has the colon and a subtitle kind of with it. So Michaela's Voice, A Letter to the World. I Am Ready, Warden, Incident, and Death by Numbers were the other three that I have for
That's 5 for 5. Right
There you go.
Is that
All
the same
right.
five? I was trying to like line it up. Is it
Yeah.
the same five? Yeah.
That's
Also,
the same
there's
5.
The Only Girl in the Orchestra. Again,
I
that's a
know.
title that
I know.
you're gonna.
She's the only one.
She's the one.
That one's
The
also
only-
Netflix, and it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen
okay.
that one.
Okay.
She's the only
so, yeah,
one.
that
Karen, is she the only one in the orchestra?
She was at the time that
There
she
you go.
joined.
There you go.
All
She played
right.
for Bernstein too, so you know.
Oh, and it's like okay, there you go.
The
I
other
don't know. That
one
seems like a point against her after Maestro left.
So it's about Lydia Tarr?
People liked that one.
I love that one. Another one, I think the title was pretty. I like the title of, and it won the IDA for short film. Was Instruments of a Beating Heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those two instruments and Only Girl were like the two last ones I pulled out.
Good choice.
But yeah,
Okay.
it was right there.
Mark, let's switch over to live action short real quick and talk about those.
Yeah. So the only one I've seen, the only one I've seen here was Aline, which it looks like Alien, but with a space in between the A and lean.
Did
don't
you
know if
think
that's
it was
how you
Alien when you
pronounce
clicked on it? And
when I saw it, I'm like, oh, I'm
oh
starting.
my
with
God,
that
they're gonna
one.
put half a Alien in the
Right?
live action short. Oh my
where's,
God.
where's the chest bursters? Yeah, I didn't really care too much for it. It felt a little just overly messagey. But again, we have some really good titles. The Man Who Could Not Remain Silent reminded me of myself, so of course I put that in my 5. An Orange from Jaffa, Anuja, Dovecote, and The Masterpiece were the ones that I rounded it out with.
Well, Eric, what is that? Is that another 5 for 5 for you?
5 for 5.
There you go.
Is it?
That is
That's
my
not
5.
good, folks. That's
Yeah,
not
That is
good.
my
That's
5.
So-
But I also have heard the Ice Cream Man
Yeah.
is really, really horrible. So
Oh, really?
that's
Okay.
probably in.
I came real close to I'm Not a Robot because
Yeah, it's
of,
my other. Yep.
yeah, the
my next
whole
up.
artificial intelligence
Yeah.
situation. I haven't seen.
I'm Not
I need
a
to
Robot.
see these, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
need to see these
Exactly
so
what
I
a
can have
robot
little
would
better.
say.
Oh wait, I watched that one. It's actually pretty good. Yeah.
Is it? Okay,
Yeah.
so
It's on
I might-
you can watch it on YouTube.
God
I
damn
might
you,
flip-
Eric. I heard that.
I might flip one or two of those out, but yeah, I'm Not a Robot was the one, and then I think Room Taken, if I'm not mistaken, I think I heard that's by one of the members of the Critics' Choice. I heard something about that,
Oh.
or a former member of Critics' Choice. I can't remember, but so I'm excited to see Room Taken as well. But
All right. Gotta have to
You know.
have to check that later.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. We know where Mark lies now with
Yeah.
All right. Animated short, Eric. Let's see if you go 5 for 5 again.
So we might. I think we'll at least go 3 for 5 because we do have 3 Annie nominees here in Beautiful Men, Wander to Wonder, and In the Shadow of the Cypress. So I expect those to be pretty easy predictions to make,
Mhm.
or at least safe ones. And then I have a bear named Wojciech and a crab in the pool.
Okay. Mark.
So I went with my 2 favorites first, which were a bear. So this is the category I saw 14 out of 15. The only one I didn't see, I think, was Me. You have to pay for that one, and the other ones I had.
Mark's like,
access
I'm
to.
not paying for anything.
I'm not paying. It was like $8. I'm
Get outta
not there
here.
yet. I'm not there yet. If it gets nominated, then
Then
I'll put that
and then
on
he's
the
like, all right, here's my 8. I'll break a 10. I'll break a 10.
right. So a bear named Wojciech, and I can't. I forget. They say it like Wojciech in the film, something like
Yeah.
that.
I love you pronouncing international
I'm
things.
trying, but that was by far my favorite. I absolutely loved it. It's a true story about a military group in World War II, I think it was, that adopts this little baby bear, and it grows and stays with them and
Not the
helps them in
bear. I thought you were talking
missions.
about. Okay.
Right. It's an actual bear.
Okay.
That one was my favorite. And then my 1B was Yuck, which was hilarious. It was cute.
Wait, which one?
It's called Yuck, and it has an exclamation point.
So you
which is
should say it that
another
way.
Yuck.
There you
Right?
go. Like if it's not if it's not in the title, like why would it, why wouldn't you say it?
Right. It's about these kids like coming to terms with kissing each other, and like it's gross, yuck, but they kind of like start warming up to the idea. Beautiful Men and Wander to Wonder I put in there, but I didn't really like them too much, but the Annie nominations kind of, like Erik said, made it hard, and Wander to Wonder also was a BAFTA long list.
Yeah.
So, when you're getting Annie love and long listed on a BAFTA short film, it's kind of hard to ignore. And then I went with another one of my favorites, maybe Elephants, which anything about elephants, you're probably going to win me over. So, and I think a lot of people love elephants, right? So,
So
but
you
I will say,
didn't have In the Shadow of Cypress or
don't.
A Crab in the Pool. That was what
Yeah,
your
I
difference were. But Erik, those are your runner-ups.
Yeah,
maybe
Yuck
Elephants and
Elephants
Yuck.
are my next ups.
Okay.
And,
There you go.
yeah.
My next up
animals in
okay.
short films, especially in animated, I don't know, it seems pretty easy.
It seems pretty easy. Should have done it. All right. Well, we'll see how those go. I'm glad that you guys didn't go 5 for 5 there, because then absolute chaos would have rained down on that category.
For sure.
Let's move over to, I guess, the main awards, like the feature film awards. Karen, I'm going to start with you. First category.
Oh no.
Best international feature.
Okay. I think that we have a few that are pretty assured, but there's a couple that I'm like, I don't know. And this is one of those categories where the Golden Globe influenced me here. So the nominees I have for international feature are Emilia Perez, Flo, I'm Still Here, The Seed of the Sacred Fig, and Vermilio.
Okay. Mark.
I have 3 of those. I have Amelia, Seed of the Sacred Fig, and I'm Still Here. I went with Kneecap from Ireland and The Girl with the Needle from Denmark. And I have an interesting trivia for you, which I probably just ruined. But in the preferential ballot era, do you know which country has the most nominations in this category?
Poland.
So since 2009, close. I think they had 3 when I looked.
Isn't it Denmark?
It's Denmark. Denmark has 7.
Yeah.
I keep thinking the Girl with the Needle is Poland. I don't know why.
Yeah. Because of that, it looks similar to, I think that, was it a movie called Ida or something like that?
Ida,
years
yeah.
ago? The black and white, yeah. So Ida, yeah. So yeah, Denmark. So last minute I flipped that. I pulled Flo out and went with, Denmark's entry, because I know, BAFTA long listed, Globes, NBR mentioned it. It's gotten a lot of citations. I'm seeing it pop up a lot. I don't know if you guys are on like Twitter and other places. I'm getting lots of like ads for it. So if I am, then maybe others are too.
No, you're not wrong. It's funny because I actually had The Girl with the Needle in my predictions until Fernanda Torres won the other night. I didn't have I'm Still Here there, and I swapped that one out. And part of it is just because of how it's an emotional pick, because that is such a bleak movie that I'm just like, are we really gonna do that? Like, are people really gonna sit through the girl with the needle?
Okay.
That's why I pulled that one out, because it's just so bleak and so dire, and it's so unpleasant and unhappy that it's a risk, but I just ultimately I thought I don't know how many people are gonna right now with where we're at are gonna sit down, start that, and watch the whole thing all the way through.
Yeah. Erik, where are you at with this?
So I mean, I have the top 3, which I think any of us doing this are the top 3: Emilia Perez, Seed of the Sacred Fig, and I'm Still Here. It would be hard to argue that that's not the top 3. And when I did publish these on Friday, I didn't really change from what I had previously. in 4 and 5, and that's Dahomey from Senegal, which is the Berlin Golden Bear winner, EFA nominee, and Italy, Formiglio, and also European Film nominee, Golden Globe nominee, Gotha nominee. It makes sense. I think I might, when I do finals, whether it's
Right.
what I'm saying now or what I write
This
in a
is the
couple of days.
semifinals.
This is the finals.
Oh,
Texas knows all about
We're
the
locked in
semifinals.
right
Shut
now.
up, Mark.
then I might take out Dahomey because I don't think it's going to make both, even though I have it on my list as making both this and documentary.
It
And
should.
I think I will put The Girl with the Needle in. That will probably get a spotlight nomination from the American Society of Cinematographers, not the main 5, but in the section called Spotlight, which is exactly the kind of film that gets honored. Going on name things like we have done before, How to Make Millions Before Grandma Dies from Thailand would be a pretty inspired nomination. I don't think it's done really enough to kind of get there the way that Yak in the Classroom did at the time.
Yeah.
But I think it's close. I think it's really close. So what I think my final 5 is going to end up being is Amelia Perez, Seed, I'm Still Here, Girl with the Needle, and Flow.
Oh, you said Flow?
I'm going to go with Flow.
Oh, okay.
So I have Amelia Perez, The Sea of the Sacred Fig, Vermiglio, The Girl with the Needle, and I'm Still Here. My alternative is Dahomey. I think that it's really close. And I think that one of the movie titles is going to get in, I think. And it's either going to be Dahomey or The Girl with the Needle. I agree with Mark. This is reminding me of, what was that, like, documentary short last year? I think it was like the gift shop one, or like the guy, like it was, and it was all over Facebook. It was everywhere at this time. It was just like, and it was all over Instagram, and I couldn't stop seeing this damn thing. I was like, please stop. Can we get past these noms in this season so I can stop seeing the same trailer? And I agree with you, Karen. The Girl with the Needle is it is a hard movie to watch. I just recently watched it, and my God, is that thing bleak. But if you see it, people have really responded to it and really liked it. And I think that, I don't know if enough people have watched it over the last couple of weeks, but I do think, though, that it stands a better chance than Dahomey, which is, I think, a movie I love. It was my second favorite film of the year, but a movie that also is like, it's a shorter film. I just don't know, and I haven't seen enough of really an embrace of it throughout the season outside of critics groups, and it missing like Golden Globes and it not being at CCA. No, not that any of those maybe matter towards this usually in the past, and we don't have something like PGA to help us here, but I just have a feeling that its place is just in doc, and that's also maybe just my heart saying, don't pick your favorites, Ryan, because I've done that many years before, and that's just broken me. And I think The Girl with the Needle is surging at the right time, though. Also, Mark mentioned Kneecap. They have been pushing that movie for the entire season. They've been interviewing out the yin yang for that thing. I would not be surprised if that was one of the films that made it in, because they really have been pushing it as well. So
I'm trying to be hesitant of a lineup that is, and even though it's almost every year, just so deeply European. And it's
sadly that is the case,
likely, because we have so little to outside of that. There is Dahomey and Thailand's film, and then what? Is it going to be a 4 or 5 European? Is it going to be 5 European?
I mean, there is also the possibility, I think Karen is right to, have I'm Still Here and see the surge from the Globes, but there is also the possibility of that missing as well. I think it could. I think that when we talk about actress later, and we talk, because I think this is like the only place we're going to talk about I'm Still Here and an actress in that whole discussion. There were a lot of, sadly, there were a lot of Q&As that were set up for a final surge for that movie in the Los Angeles and New York area. Obviously the tragedy
This is the
canceled a
week
lot
of
of.
release.
This is a week of it's a week of its release. A lot of events have been canceled for a lot of these films to final surge into the voting. And so there was a Q&A with Salas and Torres done by Guillermo del Toro that was canceled. And I think that would have been a huge push for it, right at the especially coming off the Golden Globe. Like that would have been a massive event for her that didn't happen. In the film, it didn't happen. So, you have to go off of passion for it. And it is a movie that has passion behind it because of that performance.
Great movie too.
It's a very good movie. You know what I mean? So
it is. It also has like
history,
crazy Brazilian fans who
exactly
storm.
That is true.
Be like an insurrection.
That is true.
Nominated,
but the Oscars
it's also hitting at a time where America's about to swear in. Like
yep. No,
there are things that feel like,
it's timely.
Thematically, yes,
right.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of that though. It just depends on which ones are going to land.
That is true.
When I look at this category, a lot of times, the first thing I'm looking at is, okay, where's it been recognized already? What's its precursor and trail look like? The second thing I try to think about is which films could I see showing up in other categories? Obviously, we know Emilia Perez is going to show up a lot of places. I'm Still Here has a chance with actress. Seat of the Sacred Fig, possibly a screenplay, possibly director. There's a couple categories. The thing with Girl with the Needle is, I could see it being a surprise cinematography. And Kneecap has a song that made the shortlist, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, Dahomey has in the category we're going to talk about next with documentary. So
right.
Yeah.
So
no. I mean,
something to think about.
It is also interesting though that See the Sacred Fig, which a lot of people, had early on in the season, we were talking about like it could potentially break out like films in the past, like a Cold War, like a Drive My Car. It just did not do that this year. And All We Imagine Is Light, which is a film that we'll probably talk about later, is not in this category, which would have is very much like a Anatomy of a Fall, would have been easily in this category. I wouldn't say it would have been a potential winner, but it had momentum for it, and of course it wasn't a selection, so that's where now it's taken out of it as well. Okay, well those are our international feature picks. Let's move over to Doc. Mark Johnson, we'll start with you. Best documentary feature.
Ooh, this is a tough one too. Well, it seems like they're all tough this year. So my 5 right now are No Other Land, Sugar Cane, which is probably my second favorite doc behind Porcelain War, which I had such a hard time not including. Daughters, Soundtrack to a Coup d'etat, and Black Box Diaries.
Okay. Erik?
I have No Other Land, Daughters, Sugarcane, Dahomey, and Porcelain War. But yeah, Black Box Soundtrack are in my next up, and I won't really discount Will and Harper exactly, but at least it tied for CCA. But that
got
curse,
a lot
that
of
curse
citations.
is strong. But
yeah.
Right. Karen?
I have Black Box Diaries. I actually went for 4 out of 5 with Mark. I have Black Box Diaries, Dahomey. This is where I feel like that's going to show up. Daughters, Soundtrack to a Coup d'etat, and Sugarcane.
Okay.
No Other Land. Is that what you?
No, that's my next one. So it's like,
That's
Oh,
tough.
I think it's either Dahomey or No Other Land.
Okay. I have No Other Land. I have Daughters, Sugarcane, Dahomey, and Black Box Diaries. I had Porcelain War in for a while, and then there was just something about it. I was like, I don't know. I think Black Box Diaries is going to squeak it in there. I think Will and Harper, though, you're the CCA winner. Congratulations, you're not getting in. And obviously, it tied with the Christopher Reeve documentary. I mean, I will believe that a movie about celebrities gets in when I see it. And that's just usually the case. And it's, I think Will and Harper's a good movie. I think that, Netflix has a stronger film in Daughters and in Secret Life of Iblen, which is just maybe it sneaks in, but it's also had a really rough go of it. I know that, a lot of Will and Harper has been, strong with a lot of critics, but No Other Land, I mean, it's won a lot, and
It's won everything.
it's timely, and I mean, it's just, the other night at New York, Brady Corbet coming out and mentioning why the hell we don't have this with a distributor yet. Anyone that would be a distributor at this point would probably look really damn good to have an Oscar potential winning film on their mantelpiece. But
and that is why I didn't.
But that's fair, Karen. That's very fair. There is also the sentiment that it could miss because of that. It has nobody pushing it. It has to push by word of mouth, and we're like literally coming up to the vote for it, and it has no U.S. distribution, which is kind of insane. I don't know when the last time, or maybe any of you guys know this, the last time we had a documentary like this, potential winner or just a nominee in general, not have U.S. distribution coming up to the nominations. So we'd have to look back into it, but
yeah, it's a very unique,
very, very rare. You know what I mean? And
but that is part of the reason why it's done so well.
Yeah.
Obviously the overwhelming critics leader for wins.
And also shame on Critics' Choice.
IDA, it won the Gotham, it won European Film, it won Cinema Eye Honors, it won the Berlinale Documentary Award. It would be, if of every single category and of every single film, if this doesn't get in, it would be a top tier shock, like top 3. I would see Wicked missing Best Picture before this.
I would agree with you, except for the fact that almost every year the front runner going in seems to miss in this category. The documentary branch, they've
but this isn't the kind of front runner that the documentary branch would deny.
Right.
Will and Harper would kind of be that.
Harper would be that movie.
Yeah, for sure. Because it's not timely. It's celebrity focused. Like that's where Senior or Jane or Won't You Be My Neighbor? You know what I mean?
Year.
Yeah, very competitive year. No, I mean you're right. I mean, soundtrack to a coup d'etat sounds like a movie that could also easily get in, and that's where I think a movie that I love, again, like I think Dahomey is a little vulnerable as well too. Maybe that's just also me hedging my bets again, but I agree with Erik. I don't know. It also would send a massively terrible message, I think too. And I know that they don't care when they go into the booth and they submit their stuff, but I do also know that they love to just pick things to make them look good as well at times too. Like there's a little bit of both where it's like, we don't care. We'll pick whatever we want. But the politics of that movie, of No Other Land, and it missing, I mean, I know CCA didn't do it, and shame on them for not having it. I mean, they were called out immensely for the safe picks that they had in those categories. And I mean, there is a world where that could happen with the Oscars as well, but I don't know. There's just something about No Other Land. It feels very timely. We've had some very timely docs over the last couple of years, and it fits right in there with that kind of narrative. But I mean, we're also Karen's floating out the idea that it could miss and easily, then that means that I would not be shocked if it missed. And
I don't think that it should miss.
No, I'm not saying that you do, but like, I think it's a fair, astute point to make.
It's just when I step back and I do try to take my emotions out of it, it's like the fact that it does not have a distributor, it makes me just pause, because yes, I know it has done well with a lot of groups, but it makes me pause and say, but does that translate to the Academy? And I'm just not totally convinced. But like I said, I think it's either No Other Land or Dahomey. I don't think both of those get in. I also do see a world where neither of them get in as well, but I think it's likely to be
I think if it
one
gets
of those.
nominated, though, No Other Land, I would have a feeling that it does get picked up then at that point.
You would hope so.
Oh,
I would
yeah,
hope so. So
immediately.
then people can
Immediately.
fucking see
Mhm.
it. Like, it's ridiculous. You
There's,
know what I mean?
there's
Yeah.
also in these the precursor run of all of this, documentaries have among the highest number of them of variety. There's BAFTA, there's Cinema Eye Honors, Critics' Choice, International Documentary Association, but there's also the DGA and PGA,
Yeah.
which we have nominees for.
Mhm.
Of everything that we've talked about, Porcelain War is the only film on the short list, period, that was able to make it into PGA. And in DGA, we have Sugarcane Daughters, Porcelain War, Soundtrack to a Coup d'etat, and Hollywood Gate. So I think you can start winding, weeding those out and going, okay, here's where we're getting close. And like right now, Sugarcane and Daughters have the most across the board.
Mhm.
Then it's Porcelain War, then it's Soundtrack, and Black Box Diaries, No Other Land, and Remarkable Life. But they're just numbers. They don't. It's not always going to work through numbers, but then you get things that have not really gotten anywhere, like Eno and Frida and Queendom have gotten in to none of these precursors in a significant way, or even the BB Files.
Yeah. I saw Daughters at Sundance last year at a press screening at 8:30 in the morning, and I'm sobbing my eyes out watching this. And I went, and it didn't have a distributor yet. And I said, if this goes to the right studio, this is going to win Best Documentary Feature. And then when I heard Netflix bought it, I was like, I think this could win Best Documentary
It
Feature.
could.
And
Except
yeah,
strangely,
Sure.
they released it in August, so
I
they
know.
did not have any type of like
Momentum.
resurgence
I
in
know.
small festivals, and that made me pause.
I
Because,
thought it was because they were going to be pushing something else, and then it
That's
just
true.
kind of that hasn't. I mean, they kind of have with Will and Harper, but that kind of really, I don't know what their strategy is this year.
Well,
Also, Bible in.
yeah,
Evelyn.
Which is also great.
Those were
Yeah.
their pushes. Daughters has been successful to this point, really on its own.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And as we known from Netflix's past, if you just let a movie, All Quiet, just like kind of naturally happen, those are when you have your best days, not when you're shoving movies down people's throats. So, because then they can find them and discover them, and then they can make it feel like it's like an actually like genuine experience.
Yeah.
It'll be fascinating. But man, now Karen's put a lot of doubt into No Other Land, and it could happen. It could happen. It could
I'm
happen.
rooting for it. I really am. I'm
yeah.
happy to be wrong here.
No, to be fair, Karen, they do sometimes do the worst things in these categories. And Mark's right. They do. It is a front runner, and they do tend to sometimes just say, screw that. We're doing our own thing. And that's always a dangerous thing by that group. All right. Animated feature. Erik.
This is the second easiest category. This is actually the easiest category.
I was going to say this is the easiest category.
It's only 5 titles. Anything outside of these 5 titles would be a shock, a huge shock. And that's Flow, Inside Out 2, Memoir of a Snail, Wallace and Gromit, and The Wild Robot.
I have the same 5. Karen, you have the same 5?
Same.
Mark?
I think Moana 2 is the only one that like
Moana?
Yeah, Moana.
Moana 2?
She's from Texas.
There you go.
So she'll probably.
I'm from Moana. I'm from the Gulf of Mexico. All right.
So Moana 2 maybe is your upset.
Okay.
If anything, but like because maybe Memoir, maybe Memoir is a little too small. Who knows?
It's Memoir is definitely 5.
It's 5. It's 5 on mine.
I mean, outside of Moana, what is another film? You screwed up there, buddy. What is the other film that could get in?
That Christmas.
Okay.
I loved That Christmas.
The Transformers film didn't seem to like click with it. Oh no!
And I liked that one, and it just didn't
nowhere
do anything. Yeah.
I mean,
Moana 2 and That Christmas are the only films.
It really is. It just feels
have gotten anything outside of anything at all.
Listen,
Moana 2
folks.
has Golden Globe and BAFTA long list, and That Christmas is on the BAFTA long list and was Annie nominated. Moana 2 didn't even get into it.
Yeah. It only got in at Globes just because,
it did.
Globes
It
be
did
Globes.
show up well. It did show up with the guilds, though, right? Like the Art Directors Guild, the Ace Eddies, Sound Mixers, Casting. They all nominated it for animated. So I think it's the distant 6. I agree with you completely. It's been these 5 all year.
Yeah.
But I think, the Disney branch of the Academy is pretty huge. And this is their only film if you don't count the Pixar film, right? So the only one with Disney on its name is Moana 2. So that's why it's, I would hate to not mention that in that group.
Oh, of course.
But
And it's a huge
hit.
6. It's nearing $1 billion.
Yeah. And the first one was nominated as well and a bunch of other places. So, but I don't think so.
Yeah.
All right. That's animated feature. We all agree. No, unless Karen, you got something else?
No, I have those 5.
Okay. Well, no, I was like, I saw the wheels turning there, Karen. Okay.
No, I do think Mark makes some points, but I'm sticking with the 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Best visual effects. I'll start. I have Doom Part 2. I have Gladiator 2. I have Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I have Better Man. And I have Alien Romulus.
Interesting.
Wow.
Yep. Mark Johnson.
Yeah, I think this is where we need BAFTA. I need BAFTA to weigh in because
we don't have it.
So we don't have it. I think there's 3 that feel pretty safe with Dune Part 2, Wicked, and Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. And then I think there's 4. Yeah, I think those 3 feel pretty safe. I think there's 4 films kind of fighting for those last 2 spots. Better Man, Gladiator 2, Alien. And I wouldn't be surprised if Deadpool and Wolverine kind of snuck in there too. I'm going with Better Man and Gladiator 2, but I'm very curious. I hope we get the BAFTA noms on time. They're supposed to come out Wednesday, the 15th.
Mm-hmm.
If so, I think this is one of those categories I may lean a little bit toward what BAFTA does.
Okay. Erik Anderson.
I have Dune Part 2, Gladiator 2, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, Deadpool and Wolverine, and Wicked.
Okay.
All right. Look at us being different. All right.
Well,
Karen.
I had Better Man in just before this. It does have the Annie and CCA mentions, but it deserves it.
Yeah.
But it's also, did you see its box office this weekend?
It's the smallest of the films.
Yeah.
It.
But if talk about a movie that is just
about this movie.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
and does the Sebastian Stan's Globe win maybe help bring people to that screener, which then helps them see the makeup as well? Wait, we said Better Man.
Different.
I'm thinking.
Movie.
We're talking.
I'm thinking makeup. I'm thinking makeup all of a sudden.
We'll get to makeup and
Another category I need BAFTA for.
That's a different man.
That's a different movie.
We have all these.
Attaboy, Mark.
Men.
Attaboy, man.
My bad.
Well,
Moana?
This is also a category, as makeup is as well, that have bake-offs, which are generally in person, and you provide your reel and you show people, and you can get real feedback and real information. Everything is going to be online for it, so we're not gonna have a lot of information because nobody can attend it that is not a
member,
a part of it.
Yeah.
So I think again that's going to create a situation of possibly different nominations than they would have been. And I know at the top we talked about the potential for international voters to have a larger sway. On the other side of it, anyone that is voting might just be super, super safe.
Yeah, that is true.
Unwilling to just do anything that even feels remotely adventurous.
That's fair. Karen, you're 5.
I have Gladiator 2, Dune Part 2, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and Wicked. And then I've gone back and forth because I was actually really thinking about some chaos because I was thinking about box office. And for that, I thought for maybe possibly a real wild card, Twisters.
You know,
Did my next up.
it's one of those that's right there for me because they love disaster films like that. They really do. And I almost thought about that, and then when I wrote these down, I did not see the Better Man box office, and then as we were recording, I
Breaks my
thought,
heart.
yeah, well, not really, um, but um, I think that you might not be wrong on that assertion, Karen, because I do think that that's a movie that is a little bit different than the rest,
The
and
thing that works about Twisters is the visuals.
exactly. Well, it's a movie that's, well, not all these movies, but most of them, they're predicated on the special effects. A disaster movie being predicated on that, Twisters. And so I went with Alien Romulus too
Which I think,
because
other than the Ian Holm thing, looks fantastic.
yeah, and I
I
think that
the Ian Holm thing is why it should be thrown in the garbage and shouldn't have been on the short list.
listen, I'm
They
not.
fixed it for
Wow.
home release.
They fixed
Oh, I
it for you
saw
and
the
everything here.
fix.
The fix. I just think that
Be in jail.
I don't know. That movie is kind of weirdly just hung around and stayed around this season. I don't know why. I just have a feeling of, again, that's a safe pick. It's a familiar franchise as well. Um, I think that
But not
I know
one that-
I know everybody has Wicked on their lists, and I'm the one where I think that movie's strength lie in other technical categories and not that one. And I do think that the others are more. I think this is a very competitive category, and like for those last two spots, I could totally see a world where, Eric, you're right. Marvel has had a good staying power in nominations with this.
Yeah.
And it is a very effects driven film as well, Deadpool, Wolverine. But I might make a change. I think Karen might have swayed me on Twisters for Better Man.
I feel so bad if it goes to Better Man, which it should.
Which it should. I mean, like, that's a whole movie. The whole thing is about that. You know what I mean? But also, to Eric's point, international voters, if they did want to push something in those categories, it would be maybe something like that, because that's a film clearly designed for international voters alone, or international audiences and not American audiences.
Well, Better Man's box office, even in the UK, is really bad. Too.
Oh.
So
Well, there you go. Well, then Twisters it is. I'm taking that
It
off.
didn't land for anybody.
All
And we
right.
won't have the visual effects nominations for
Yeah, I was just looking
2
that
more
up.
days. Because we
Okay,
haven't
so
heard
when
any
did they say that's coming?
14th, and they haven't said that they are holding
Yeah. Space.
them. So yeah,
All right.
it's going to be quite an action-packed week.
Yeah. I'm going to take Better Man off. I'm going to put Twisters on there. Karen convinced me. So, but I'm keeping with Alien Romulus, because there's usually one every year that's just like, you shake your head and you're like, that's the stupidest, ugliest thing, and somehow it got in. And I think that would be the Ian Holm thing. Like, totally would get in.
But I mean, then that makes room for something like Mufasa Lion King.
Yeah,
which is
but
also on the BAFTA long list.
and
And
it's like,
should be an animated feature. But anyway.
yeah, and is now at $500 million worldwide.
Yeah.
Another box
So
office.
that's a sneaker here, a major sneaker.
Little sneaky.
is Mufasa.
There's another category, I think we'll talk about that, where it's a little sneaky as well too. So, all right, best makeup and hairstyling. Karen, start with you.
Well, I went with a different man, Mark. I have a different man, Amelia Perez, Nosferatu, which that's a hope one.
Mhm.
The Substance and Wicked.
Okay, Eric, back to you.
I have The Substance, Wicked, Nosferatu, A Different Man, and Beetlejuice.
Interesting. Mark Johnson.
Close. So far I'm the only one without Nosferatu. I have Substance, Wicked, Beetlejuice, Different Man. This is where it shows. and Amelia Perez.
Okay. I have The Substance, Wicked Part 1, Amelia Perez, Beetlejuice, and I have Nosferatu by a nose over A Different Man. Or by a mustache? By a whisker? By a mustache? Yeah. By a whisker. But I do think it's 6 competitive. Obviously, I don't. The other two that were in Erik, I saw in your next ups were Dune Part 2 and Maria. I don't think Dune Part 2 is a part of this conversation. They are
what's
specific.
happening behind the scenes there is pretty nasty.
And it seems like it's a very personal thing that will bleed over into a non-nomination for that film. So again, that movie is on a downward trajectory in terms of nominations from what it had for the first film. Very much Avatar: The Way of Water, and how we've seen with sequels. And then Maria is an interesting film. It really is just hoping at this point for anything for Maria at this point.
Oh yeah, I'm holding on by claws,
by threads.
I love that movie so much, and it's just not emerging anywhere. So
when it was completely shafted by the BAFTA long lists and has really just underperformed at any other precursors at this point.
Yeah.
It feels kind of done for it. Amelia Perez, I have in right now at that it's at the 5 spot. Actually, not Nosferatu. Because I could see A Different Man, I could see, but Amelia Perez is the stronger film, and Nosferatu is the more technical of those films. I think you have to, if you're talking about a better man, you have to have it in other categories, and I don't have it in any other categories.
Different Man.
Or Different Man. Sorry, God, Mark screwed me up.
It's your turn.
God damn it!
There's a few things in this category that are interesting, and one of them is the potential for A Different Man and The Apprentice to get in here, with Sebastian Stan missing out for both of those performances. It would be
very much so.
Kind of lame. The thing about Amelia Perez for me, which is throwing me off a little bit in terms of getting it into the final 5, is the single MUA nomination that it got. The Makeup and Hairstyling Guild was for contemporary makeup, and not the prosthetic makeup from Manitas to Amelia, which was kind of surprising that there were no prosthetic or a special effects makeup category for it, because that's where it would have gotten in. So I don't know, but otherwise it's going to be a nomination leader. It's going to be double digits, so it could easily be here,
and it's going to have possibly 2 acting nominations, maybe even 3. I don't know. That's where I was going with that one. Like when you start talking about the actresses being nominated, that's why for me it goes up to the top on makeup.
Yeah,
like for nomination, not necessarily
branch to branch, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I have Amelia Perez in my 5th spot and Nosferatu 6, and my, at a certain point you're splitting hairs in the hair, on this one
in the makeup and hairstyling category. Yeah.
Right. Makes sense.
There you go.
But Amelia Perez, we know, like Erik said, it's going to be a Best Picture nominee. It's going to possibly lead the field in nominations. So that's kind of my tiebreaker. Yeah.
The one that's totally happening though too is Beetlejuice, in my opinion. Like that one's. I think that's going to happen. Like
I would love to see it.
It's such a stylish craft film, and when Burton's movies have positive reception, they usually have done well with the Academy before. So he works with veterans of their departments. So would not be surprised about that as well, because it had 3 mentions as well, right, Erik? I believe.
The Substance and Beetlejuice got 3 MUA nominations each. Wicked got 2.
Yeah.
The movie made $300 million.
It was a big hit.
It could show up.
Oh yeah. Oh, it could definitely show up. Oh, very much so. Okay. Best sound, Mark Johnson.
Find it. God. All right. So sound, It's an interesting year because we have quite a few musicals in here and then some big large scale films. So
Yes.
I went with Dune Part 2, Wicked, A Complete Unknown, Amelia Perez, and Gladiator 2.
Mark Johnson and I went 5 for 5 in this category. There you go, Mark. Put it on the note card right there. Erik Anderson.
I am 4 for 5 here.
All right.
With you guys, I have Dune, A Complete Unknown, Amelia Perez, Wicked, and Deadpool and Wolverine over Gladiator. I just took Gladiator out for my final prediction.
That's probably smart. You had
probably
if I remember,
smart.
you said you had Deadpool in visual effects too, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so
It's probably smart.
I like it.
Yeah. Karen.
It got 3 MPSE nominations and Cinema Audio Society. The only other film that got that was Dune. Gladiator did get Cinema Audio Society, which is a single category, 5 nominations. So it's a really good get. Alien Romulus got 2 MPSEs. It's a very, very competitive category. But yeah, 2 musicals and then 1 music biopic getting in here that's a lot.
That's a lot. Alien Romulus is my 6 because I put it in visual effects, which makes total sense. Karen.
It's funny because I have A Complete Unknown, Dune Part 2, Amelia Perez, and Wicked. And then I couldn't decide on the 5th spot. And so I'm still trying to decide between Deadpool, Gladiator 2, and Alien Romulus. Like, I cannot decide.
Well, we got
kind of curious what BAFTA does here too, because Gladiator was long listed, and if I'm not mistaken, Alien and Deadpool were not. Right.
I have a feeling the Gladiator is going to get in at BAFTA very much and have a little bit of a tech showing the way that a movie like Napoleon from Ridley Scott did last year, and so that's why I had it squeak out there where it's like, I think the BAFTA, I think it will be nominated at BAFTA and help it push it a little bit over the top at the final stretch. But I also could just see a world where they're like, fuck that. We're going with the aliens or we're going with the soups. You know what I mean?
And right now in this moment, I'm leaning toward Deadpool just because of the fact that it does feel weird that I have no Marvel predicted in visual effects. And to have it not in visual effects or sound, it feels weird. So I'm gonna go with Deadpool.
I was like, no. But yeah, Mark, you're right. Alien Romulus was not BAFTA long listed. They have Blitz and The Brutalist, which is the only places that those 2 titles have shown up. And then Joker 2 is on the Oscar shortlist and has gotten absolutely nothing.
Erik, did you say that?
Laugh when they hear that.
Erik, you said Blitz was on the BAFTA long list?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good movie with some good. I mean, it's a good sound movie. Not a good movie.
There's a movie on that long list that should have been on the Oscar shortlist and was so shockingly snubbed, and that was Civil War. That would have been such an easy pick.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't believe it was not on the list.
That was kind of Joker. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm okay with Joker missing, but the sound in Civil War was pretty top notch sound. Some of the best of the year.
Yeah, I don't know how.
Regardless of what you think of the film, like that sound was.
Yep.
All right, Karen, did you win with Deadpool Wolverine?
I'm going with Deadpool.
So you went with Erik. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay. We'll see. Yeah, I do feel like that. There's no certainty in that last spot. It's very wide open. But Karen makes a good point. They do love their Marvel in these technical categories.
Yeah.
Well, Marvel knows how to campaign in these.
That is true. That's very true. Okay. Best original song. Erik Anderson.
Oh my God. Am I gonna stick with these for my front runner Friday? Sure, why not? Okay.
I think so. I think you have to.
El Mal from Amelia Perez, Kiss This Guy from The Wild Robot, Compress, Regress from Challengers, Mi Camino from Amelia Perez, and The Journey.
Hell yeah.
6888 from, of course, Diane Warren, who just lost her house in the fires.
Yes.
I'm 5 for 5 with Erik on that one.
Okay. Karen?
I actually, instead of the Camino song, I have Never Too Late from Elton John.
Good pick.
I have the same thing as Karen.
Look at you.
I think that the Selena fans are going to get really mad because Elton John and Brandy Carlisle have been campaigning their ass off
Yeah.
the last couple of weeks. They even showed up and presented together at the Globes.
Mhm.
5 years ago, Elton John won with Bernie Taupin. This is his, it just feels like if there is one vulnerability for Amelia Perez, it is maybe not getting 2 songs in. They clearly are pushing El Mal. Amelia Perez was supposed to have an event that Erik and I was supposed to go to for the music, and that got canceled. In Los Angeles, now they have done pop-ups before. Earlier in the season, I remember seeing video, and the song that they actually were singing, the composers, and it was Mi Camino, and it was very stripped down. So
it's a karaoke song.
It's a karaoke song, but also they can turn it into a ballad. You know what I mean? If they wanted to, and they were playing it via piano as I don't want to see them do El Mal. Probably in karaoke style.
It's such a better song though. It's not even.
But it also, I know why El Mal is the one to push because of Saldana and her performance is the big moment. Kiss the Sky has the HMMA for animated, and The Journey, Diane Warren, you got to have her there. I think, listen, I love Challengers, and I love that song. I know that Erik wants to put his foot down. It's not going to happen, but it could miss. It could, and
of course it could. But I am not prepared.
I'm not prepared for it either.
For that to happen,
I do not accept that.
I know no one is.
I won't accept the results of the election. Sorry.
I think that's why I think Brandy Carlisle and Elton John could make it through. And I also think that the song from Mufasa from Lin-Manuel Miranda could make it in over something like that. Because
every song in Mufasa is terrible. So.
I understand that. That hasn't stopped them before from doing bad things. And it's a movie that's top of mind. $500 million. People are seeing it.
Well, the Elton John song makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
For the combination of those two, and because it's the main doc contender for a song.
Yeah, it was
having this category without a doc nominee feels weird.
It does feel weird, and it's a celebrity and a big name, and we've seen celebrities and big names break
and this
through
is where they can show up versus documentary.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. Yep. And that's where I know that some people have Harper and Will Go West, and they've pushed that as well, but Elton John is a little bit of a bigger name, I think, maybe controversial statement than Kristen Wiig. And and I just think that they've done enough push at the final belt to get in. But
okay, but how much did you love how excited that Elton John was when
he was so excited when the score won? Yeah.
Oh my God. He was so excited.
But I have
same girl.
I have compressed regress in there for now, but I am not. That feels like a heart pick. You know what I mean? It does. It feels like a heart pick.
I feel like MGM should have done full events.
Yeah.
Reznor Ross just doing mixes of compress repress over and over again, and just whole dance parties, and sneak in times 10 and just do the whole thing.
Just play it on repeat and just kind of Clockwork Orange it into voters' heads. You know what I mean?
That as a nominee here would be so unique and cool and fun.
That's the other thing.
It's
the fun. Oscars. We never get to have fun like this. You know what I mean? They never do the cool thing.
See who performs it.
Yeah. I mean, you're saying all this and now it's not going to happen, right? You keep
some cool things.
It's going to happen.
It just reminds me of when I know they're not the same in terms of comparison with the song from the Noah Baumbach film a couple of years ago from White Noise. And
Oh,
it's giving me flashes to that, where like that's a cool song, you know.
oh, that was such a great song.
It's such a great song. I was like, oh man, they're gonna have that at the Oscars, right? They're gonna perform it, and then it didn't happen. You know what I mean? So
They pushed
don't know.
that so hard,
and they
too.
pushed it so hard. Yeah.
Radio. Oh my.
So there you go. I'm just saying, could be vulnerable. Best original score. I'll kick this one off. I have The Brutalist, Conclave, Amelia Perez. I have The Wild Robot, and I have Challengers.
5 for 5 with you on that.
5 for
Right.
5 there.
Karen,
Yep.
5 for
Same.
5. Okay,
Mhm.
Wow.
that's scary.
Wow. All four.
So what's missing?
So I do think that Challengers could miss.
It's
Just
my number one, so it's not missing.
Oh, it's
Not
not
missing.
missing.
That
I thought
was another
Conclave-
one where
I thought Conclave was
The-
your number one. Eric,
Huh?
I thought Conclave was your number one.
Oh, wait, is it in my chart? Oh yeah, Challenges is 3. It's number 1 in my heart.
There you go. Sorry, Karen.
that's what I thought you meant.
That's
Karen, what
I
were you going to
meant.
say? Sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say that was another area where I think the Golden Globe swayed me, and like that one, I think it's like that. I am sure is definitely happening.
No, I mean,
So what-
I mean, when they have won the Globe and started the run, Reznor and Ross, throughout the seasons when that was the Social Network and Soul, they have gone on to win the Oscar.
Yeah.
I'd be
and
willing to
everything.
bet because the CCA awards, which would have
I
been
would
taken
bet they
place
would have won that.
today,
Yeah.
I would bet you that they won that.
How much you want to bet?
Mhm.
Put it live on the mic. How much you want to
How
bet?
much? Oh no. It's just bragging rights.
All right, Mark, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, what do you guys each have in the 5th spot? What do you think's the most vulnerable, since we all agree on the 5?
I do kind of, I
Wild
mean,
Robot
Yeah.
is my
actually,
5.
you're right. Yeah. Wild Robot.
I have.
And I'll tell you what my
Amelia
6 is.
Perez.
I'll
It's
tell you
What's
what,
your
Blitz.
6?
your 6 is Blitz.
My 6 is Blitz, since Hans Zimmer's Dune score is ineligible. I can absolutely see voters gravitating to that because it's the place that he can get in.
Yeah. Mark?
I could see that happening, and I'd be more convinced if Blitz was doing anything anywhere else.
My
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
I have
That
Amelia
movie.
Perez in my 5 because I don't know that
Yeah.
score is what you think of with that movie. It's the songs. So I have it hesitantly in there, and I have Nosferatu in my 6, which I'm like so close to just flipping those out. But again, when in doubt, go with the one that's more likely a Best Picture nominee, and especially the one that's going to have a ton of nominations. But I wonder if Amelia Perez misses this one.
I have 2 films in my alts that I thought about. I thought about Gladiator 2.
Yeah.
Because it just seems like a tech player. It's one of those big tech players. And obviously Dune missing out. That's like the next big tech player up. I thought about The Room Next Door.
Yeah.
Sony Pictures Classics, little surprise there. He's, Glacius is a big player within the branch.
I would love
Um,
that.
It would be. I agree though with Erik. Hans Zimmer, when I sat down with McQueen earlier this year, he talked about it being this really personal score for him. They fought damn tooth and nail. I though agree with both of you guys. It's like if that movie would have done anything, it felt like maybe sound in the score, and it hasn't even showed up anywhere. Search is non-existent. The movie's non-existent. Just kind of came and they said, no, thank you, and went. So it's weirdly a movie that is a war movie. It's technical. You kind of figure like it'll get in a couple of places. Another film we were talking about when our early predictions and just didn't go anywhere at all.
This
Yeah, it was
this is definitely a movie that's going to be on that on Joe Reed's what's it called
Oh,
This had Oscar buzz.
This
this
had
had
Oscar-
Oscar buzz that
Aw,
it's definitely
yeah,
one of those.
it's definitely going to be one of those.
Second.
That's for sure.
Mhm.
Challengers
Yeah,
could be
but
that.
Blitz missing with the art directors guild too, I thought was kind of like, man, did anybody see this
Crazy
movie?
misses.
Yeah,
Crazy.
yeah.
Now I know that
Nosferatu though has my heart, and it would make me so happy if that made it in.
can Eric, can you do me a favor and explain to the voters out there, or to the listeners out there, not voters, why the voters
There's listeners that are voters.
there's listeners probably in our voters. The reason why something like Wicked is eligible here, which also, if that is a strong film, that could
I think it is. If you think Wicked is getting 10 nominations too, then
it should show up here,
it's a
right?
contender here.
Mhm.
And to Mark's point, it's not that it's surprising that the score is eligible here, but it's not the thing that you're thinking about and hearing. It's the songs.
Same with
And that there was
Amelia.
enough score to be able to circumvent the percentage of songs is pretty surprising, because the rules from the music branch are really strict, and they have been consistently pretty brutal about enforcing those rules. So it making it in was,
Well, I mean,
just itself a surprise.
they kicked out the Robbie Williams song in the other category. Like they're willing, they'll disqualify you in a heartbeat. I mean, they went to court with Dune. You know what I mean? So
I wonder too if I wonder if the Wicked score and the Amelia Perez score would split votes from each other in that
No.
realm.
Mark, we don't do vote splitting on this website.
I hear you, but if they're like I mentioned, I
Split Passion?
I have it in the 5th spot, right? And I have Wicked in the 7th spot with Nosferatu in the 6th. And if that's close, I wonder if the contingent that might feel like I do, where what score would
that's
I don't know.
No, I know that makes sense, and I think the thing around Eric's predictions, because I was looking at him, Mark, and to your pick for Nosferatu, is that movie is a big hit right now, and people are seeing it and people love it, and it's a technical achievement. And I know Robert Eggers' films outside of cinematography for The Lighthouse is the only thing of any of his films that have pushed through in terms of nominations. But this feels, with an IP driven film and a box office film and pushing really late towards the end of the year. And if you're talking about if people weren't able to catch up with things but have something fresh on their mind, Nosferatu does feel like a movie that could easily sneak into a couple of categories,
For sure. But also too, this is a branch that
they love their favorites though.
Makeup and visual effects, they get just the isolated bits of music. It doesn't have to be you don't have to sit and watch Wicked and go, oh, here is how the score connects from one piece to another. And sometimes that works to advantage, and sometimes to like disadvantage. If you have main themes that are really, really strong, but the rest of the connective tissue score is a little bit discordant.
Conclave.
No, what I'm actually thinking of is the Beale Street score.
Yeah.
Which has two spectacular pieces that are going to go down in history. If you listen to the whole score in a row in just succession of itself, the little bits and pieces in between feel discordant and kind of weird, and it misses context. And I think that's something that can happen when you are a composer in this branch and just listening to score.
Yeah, exactly. Surprised John Williams didn't have an original score for his doc. He would have totally got in here. You know what I mean?
Shit. No.
Indiana Jones in it up it again in here. You know what I mean? So,
no.
All right. Best production design. Mark, we'll start with you.
Okay, production design. This is where I think Nosferatu has its best shot of being a nominee. So I have Wicked, Dune Part 2, The Brutalist, Nosferatu, and Conclave.
Ooh, okay. Eric Anderson.
This is an extremely hard category.
Yes, it is.
Because I have a front runner missing And then I have a late breaker that is doing extremely, extremely well, missing. So I feel like this is going to be wrong. I have Wicked, The Brutalist, Gladiator 2, Nosferatu, and Dune Part 2.
Wow.
So what did you have in? You had Gladiator Part 2 instead of Conclave, basically.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's my 6. And again, another category where BAFTA, I think I'm waiting for to see. Help me with these 4 or 5 spots, because there's
help me Obi-Wan BAFTA. You're my only hope.
Well, and that's the thing.
Unknown.
When we look at those precursors, our Directors Guild BAFTA long list that we have right now, Critics' Choice, and Set Decorators, 6 movies have all of them.
Yeah. The one that doesn't is a complete unknown, but it is breaking through quickly through every branch, left and right. Karen, your 5 as of now.
I went with Conclave instead of Gladiator. So I've got Conclave, Doom Part 2, Nosferatu, The Brutalist, and Wicked.
I have Wicked Part 1, The Brutalist, Doom Part 2, Gladiator 2, and A Complete Unknown. He built the damn Coliseum, folks. This isn't really it's I know it's hard, but it's probably not that hard. And then with A Complete Unknown, how many damn photos did we see before that movie come out of the recreation, Greenwich Village, and all these different things, and Newport, and all this stuff?
Yeah.
We saw the photo. It's getting nominated for the Oscar thing this year, I think. Obviously, Dune and Dune 2 is going to get in. This is a winner, I believe, for the first one, right? And Wicked Part 1, even though I feel that's done on a Nickelodeon set, that's totally getting in. And then The Brutalist is about architecture. So, it makes sense. Nosferatu, though, that's some of the best production design I've seen this year, period.
It should be walking away with the award. Right. It shouldn't even be a conversation.
We shouldn't have a conversation about it. It's my 6.
Like it's safest bet.
It's my number 6. Conclave, you're right, Erik. That's a movie that also should be if we had 7 spots, easy. We call it a day. We'd walk away. But we don't have 7 spots. I can make a case for Conclave, but also I can make a case for Conclave missing.
When I was watching Conclave, I was like, did they get permission to film inside the Sistine Chapel? I thought it was the Sistine Chapel.
And that's and like Brian said about the Coliseum, that's what they did with Conclave. They built the
They have a set.
They built what's it called? Vatican City, basically. So, it's really this is really one of those categories where I feel pretty good about Wicked, Dune, and Brutalist. I don't think I could bet against those, but that final 2 spots with Nosferatu, Conclave, Gladiator, and A Complete Unknown, it's draw names out of a hat or something for those last 2 spots, because it's really impossible to pick right now.
Yeah, I also kind of usually work on a theory every year that even movies that are going to be the top nomination getters, most of them miss at least one.
Mm-hmm.
It might not make sense, but it generally happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, Conclave makes perfect sense here. That recreation makes sense. They kind of tried to do that with 2 popes, with also full recreations in Vatican. Didn't work out too well.
2 popes.
So I don't know. Maybe there's a connection.
Maybe so. I do think my 5 is A Complete Unknown. But it's becoming so strong with these guilds, and is picking up steam and is making money, and so is Nosferatu.
Nosferatu and Complete Unknown are the great examples of late breakers that are working versus others like Baby Girl, which are not.
Exactly. So it's a tough category, guys. It's a tough one.
Yep.
All right, Erik, best costume design.
Okay.
Shit! All right, you can hear it in his voice.
This is a category that I feel like has 4 very solid, not locks, but just solid contenders. that have Critics' Choice, Costume Design Guild, and the BAFTA long list. And that's Conclave, Dune Part 2, Gladiator 2, and Nosferatu. And for that last spot, I'm going with Complete Unknown.
Okay. Karen?
I actually am slightly different from that. I do have a complete unknown. Some of the points you were making about production design, Ryan, are exactly why I have it here.
Yeah.
I also have Nosferatu. I have Wicked. And then I have Dune Part 2. And then for my fifth spot, I think this is where Maria finally shows up. I put Maria.
Okay. Interesting. Mark Johnson.
I might have been 5 for 5 with Karen, so I'm just going to go through them because I was thinking about Conclave and why I have it missing here. Like Erik mentioned, there's always a category where movies might miss. This is where I think Conclave is weakest. It's good costumes, but it's papal robes and things.
And they made one, and they just made 400 of them.
Like the copies in the film.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, right.
Right.
So I have Wicked, Dune Part 2, Gladiator 2, Nosferatu, and I do think this is the spot where Maria might still have life.
I want it to happen so badly.
I have Wicked Part 1. I have Dune Part 2. I have Gladiator Part 2. I have A Complete Unknown. And I went back and forth. But I went with Conclave. But if there is actually, I think, a spoiler in this category, it is not Maria. It is not Nosferatu. It is Beetlejuice.
That's my 6.
God damn you, Colleen Atwood.
She's right there. And
that's why.
Hasn't been nominated in a while. And when she's working with Burden in a movie that people like, she gets in. She doesn't necessarily have to win, but she gets in. And that movie has a shit ton of costumes. It is, and I could easily see it happening as well too.
It's tough. It's very tough. When I think of Conclave and having it in it, and then not production design, it kind of feels stupid. It doesn't really make sense.
That's why I probably is more likely production design than this, but also the Oscars do weird shit all the time.
I think about like when Chariots of Fire won costumes here, and I'm like, that was some janky.
Really?
That was also 45 years ago.
I know.
That was just yesterday for Erik. You know what
I mean? Raiders of the Lost Ark over that, I would think.
Yeah, but it'll pop into my head. That specific win will pop into my head all the time and be like, how did that even happen?
Really nice white shirts though.
The white shorts running on the beach. That was it.
I mean,
that was it.
I do think
that
though,
one scene.
For me, the one that is actually vulnerable here is A Complete Unknown. I think it's more in the production design where that could break through, but the costume design, there's nothing really too specific. Or I know it's period, but I just feel that Beetlejuice or Maria would probably have a better shot. Though, I didn't have Nosferatu, and that's, I mean, they do love bonnets and corsets.
Really good there's some great costumes.
Yeah, that represents a period that is extremely popular with the branch, so it feels like a pretty easy place to get in.
I'm just also not picking it because it's, that's my heart over me.
Yeah, I'll probably be battling between Maria and Beetlejuice for that 5th spot.
Though Dune Part 2 could also be a film because it just underperforms other than the first one. That it could miss.
Yeah. And then, I wonder if Dune, I think you're onto something there. I wouldn't be surprised if Dune has a very underwhelming day and that's the one.
Oh, it's going to be Two Towered.
Two Towered?
Mm-hmm. What? You watch it.
I could see that.
Watch it.
What a phrase. What a phrase.
Meaning that it misses in a lot of places.
Most. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's just
Okay.
it's just Avatar: Way of Water too. You know, where
Gross.
you're just like the sequel is just not to the technical and nomination level as the first film.
Well,
You know?
but it also doesn't help that they have pretty much said this is a part 2 of 3.
Well,
And
and it's just a
yeah, just to
continuation
the
of the
Two
past
Towers
story.
comparison.
Yeah.
Well, but even more than it just being a sequel in comparison to the Two Towers, or like that middle part of a trilogy, even when it is the strongest one, because I personally think Two Towers is the best of the 3. But anyway,
Correct.
even
Oh,
when
wait.
it's the strongest one,
You weren't
it
asking,
gets
but
overlooked for awards because there's more to come.
correct. Yes. Karen,
Which is a terrible
Great
way to
take.
think of things, but clearly
Mhm.
people do think of it
Yeah.
like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
Two Towers is the best Lord of the Rings movie. God, I want to go watch that one now. All right.
They're all equal to me.
Get a room.
I don't know. I don't know how you separate them.
Well, they did 3 different years, 3 different times in the theater.
I know.
So,
I to me,
technically,
it's
they
all
did.
one movie.
Well, you bought 3 different tickets, didn't you? Yeah. So,
Fine.
all right. Anyway, best cinematography.
God.
Yeah, everyone just a sigh of, oh boy.
This is hard.
Yeah, this is brutal.
Number 5 is
Well, speaking of brutal, my number one, The
Right.
Brutalist.
Yeah.
I have Dune Part 2, Conclave, Nickel Boys, and I'm sticking with them. Riding or dying with them. I have Ed Lockman for Maria.
Oh,
That's my
yes.
Maria pick. That one just
Baffles me. It baffles me so much how this is probably the one category, candidate, I guess, contender. I just can't believe that that's not showing up anywhere. Critics, guilds,
just
BAFTA
riding her.
long
I
lists.
I
Like,
probably
it's
should have gone
nuts.
with Amelia Perez, but I just have a hard time. And maybe it's actually Nickel Boys is the one that's gonna get kicked out of here. Yeah, Eric, you might not like me saying it. Just
Nope.
because, it could, because Ed Lockman is a staple and they love their favorites. He got in for El Conde, for Christ's sake.
He
You know what I
missed
mean?
with British Society of BSC, right? He missed
Mm-hmm.
with the British cinematographers. That was
And
and
we
didn't
would
get
have
BAFTA.
had ASC already by now, but
Right.
they postponed as
They had to
well.
postpone as well.
When
So
that's tomorrow, right?
It's tomorrow.
Monday?
yeah. So we'll
For
know.
now.
We'll know if Ryan's gonna have to make an amendment.
If he gets in ASC, I will most likely put him in that 5.
Yeah.
But the way this season has gone, I'm assuming he won't, so I don't have him in there now.
Yeah. And Karen, your picks.
I've got The Brutalist, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Nickel Boys, and my passion pick is Nosferatu.
Okay. Going 4 for 5. Mark Johnson.
Better duck, but I have Brutalist, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Nosferatu, and I pulled Nickel Boys out in favor of Amelia Perez.
Okay. Eric Anderson.
So I have Dune Part 2 missing, and I guess I'm the only one that does. I have it out as a part of its dismal
I wish
that I think is going to happen.
But
so I have The Brutalist, Nickel Boys, Nosferatu, Conclave, and A Complete Unknown.
ooh, you got Papa Michael in there.
I got
Say those 5 again, because I missed one of them. I was looking.
The Brutalist, Nickel Boys, Nosferatu, Conclave, and A Complete Unknown.
Your runner-ups, Eric.
Amelia Perez and Maria. That's it.
Netflix missing this category. That would be something.
Yeah, it would.
That would be really something.
It would.
And Amelia Perez missing this. Eric, could you kind of talk you through your thought process on?
Again, what it's just looking at films that are going to do extremely well, but still miss a few things, 1 or 2 things. But it did get the BSC. The BSC. I'm not putting a tremendous amount of stock in, but we go with what we have. And right now, like Nickel Boys only has Critics' Choice. It did
Yeah.
not make the BAFTA long list. It didn't make this one.
Nope.
BSC was Brutalist, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Nosferatu, and Amelia Perez. So
Mhm.
Dune Part 2 hasn't missed anywhere.
Nope. And that's why I think that Nickel Boys is a vulnerable player in all this.
But there is that interesting thing about winning this category as a first film and then not or missing entirely for sequels.
Yeah, that is true.
It's, it is a thing.
Fraser did miss. Everybody thought he missed, for the Batman, which is right after, which you would think an Afterglow nomination would have happened, and he didn't even get nominated for that.
Well, there's only a few Richard Deakins alive, and they're usually named.
No, you're not wrong.
Roger Deakins. So he's like
Fun
the guy.
Richard Deakins. Is that what you said?
Yeah, Roger.
Richard Deakins. Dick Deakins.
Richard Jenkins. And...
Exactly. You've got a your Conrad.
You better man it.
Well, that's why I have Lockman in, because I think that he is that elder statesman that, regardless of what you think about that film, it is a showcase of his talent. And I mean, I just go back to the El Conde nomination, where I'm just like, that movie was not well received at all, but he got in, you know what I mean? And Netflix, I mean, I also think back to, not same person, but I think back to the Bardo loan nomination in a couple of years ago. Like they will get somebody in. And I went with the veteran over Amelia Perez, but I can totally see that happening as well.
I really wish that we had ASC.
I know.
We went 5 for 5 for the first time ever.
Yeah, ever.
Last year.
Fun fact about Greg Fraser, though. Karen and I once presented him with an award.
Oh, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yep, we did. Anyway, I would love to see it be Maria.
Karen did not. She was hoping for, I think it was Power of the Dog, right?
Yeah. Ari Wagner, which I still say is way better, but anyway.
I mean, hard to argue.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I because I was looking at Nickel Boys as the vulnerable one in the lineup too, just because of the fact that I don't really have it showing up in a whole lot of other places.
Yep.
And that does feel like one that could be more of a critic's passion, move than anything else. But I also look at that film, and so much of the way that story unfolds is because of and through the cinematography, that I do have it showing up in a category we're going to talk about soon. And I feel like if that's going to happen, then cinematography makes sense to pull that in with it.
For sure. It's just one of those where it is going up against, like you're saying, Karen, just bigger films in the race with surging momentum, or up against a multiple time legend in Ed Lockman. But I have it in for now, but I'm not confident in it. I think it could be the one that misses. But also,
I would love to see Maria in instead of Dune, personally. But
I agree.
Absolutely.
I would actually prefer to see Maria in Nosferatu over Conclave. That's just down the middle. Well, I'm not. There's nothing really too special about Conclave cinematography, for me at least. But I know it's very.
Listen, Maria is the one that if I had, which I guess I did have my own ballot, but I don't think Critics' Choice. I'd have to look at my sheet, but
no.
That's who I would pick as my personal winner for best cinematography this year.
Yes.
I'm not a huge fan of the film, but I do love all the parts and pieces of it, right? Yeah. And cinematography, that's to me the best shot film of the year.
Oh my God. For me, it's Yarn and Nosferatu, but anyway.
Yeah, and that's right there too.
Well, and Nosferatu is the overwhelming leader with Critics Awards, like overwhelming.
Yeah,
it has the most.
Which
I think something about Nickel Boys that is a benefit, and even Maria to a certain extent, is that there have been overwhelmingly director cinematographer pairings of those two specific films in Q&As and advertisements and those two have been connected so much just as those two things. So it's I think there's an advantage to that when it's clear that the focus is on kind of like a single technical.
Yep, for sure. All right, Karen, best film editing.
This is hard.
We say that for every category.
I know.
They're
I know.
all hard this year.
They're very hard. This is a rough
they're
year.
hard because we don't. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going with The Brutalist, Anora, which is the first place I have it showing up, I think.
Yep.
Conclave, Dune Part 2, and Amelia Perez.
All right. Mark Johnson.
Close with what you had there, Karen. I have Conclave, Dune Part 2, Amelia Perez, Honora, and A Complete Unknown. But the more we talk about Dune and its chances of showing up, this one feels kind of the weakest of the ones that I have it in so far. So I don't know. That might be changing. Brutalist was my 6, so maybe that's something I'll flip in the end.
The reason I went with The Brutalist instead, because I actually was going back and forth between that one and A Complete Unknown. And ultimately, when I look at the Best Picture lineup, that's what swayed me, because I'm looking at what is the stronger Best Picture contender. And to me, The Brutalist makes more sense when I look at it that way.
Erik.
I have The Brutalist missing here.
Hey,
I would be fine with it missing. It's not my choice.
Have it missing.
Damn it. No.
Again, with the theory that you can't get everything.
Well, I mean,
So
sometimes you can.
This is the one place where you can complain about the film being too long, perhaps.
About
Yep.
the many things that you can Yep.
Nope.
Mhm.
So I have Conclave, Honora, Amelia Perez, Challengers, and September 5.
Wow.
Well, September
Okay.
5 is a good call. That's a really
That's
good
great.
call.
It would make my
September
5 personally, and Challengers would too, honestly. But those are interesting picks.
I have Conclave, Honora, Amelia Perez, The Brutalist, and I have Challengers as well. The movie showed up at Ace, and
You know what didn't?
The Brutalist. You know what did? You know what did though? That neither one of us picked Dune Part 2. So shut up. I have a surprise alt in this category, and I think that if it has a strong day, because the movie's surged, and if the international vote is strong, and they've shown that they like this movie, I'm not picking it, but it's in my 6th spot. Is The Substance. That is a movie.
Yeah.
Editing is so key to that thing. It's very flashy editing, and that movie is very much. It's a loud movie. I love the movie. That's not saying a bad thing. It just is. And that editing is very, very, very loud. And I think that could break through and be a surprise that we're all like, oh, that's a little bit bigger than we thought it would. And if you have it in other categories, and that would be the first time that we've actually talked about, well, no, we talked about it in makeup, but I think it more so here than in something like in cinematography could break through. So that's at my 6. And could replace Challengers, which is a vulnerable film, as well. And Dune Part 2, yeah, I just think that, talking about a movie that felt like it went on and on forever. Like, that's a movie where I totally could see it missing in this category. And then, and then we're talking about it maybe less so in other categories going forward. I'm confident in Amelia Perez. That's such an edited film. Honora, massively edited film. Conclave. I think The Brutalist, I know everybody here has some complaints about it. Also think too, what people love about it and people highlight it is it's 2 sections. It's just this giant achievement, the intermission, everything, to put that all together, 7 years. They have talked it up a bunch. And I think that even though, yes, it missed Ace, I do think that it's a Best Picture front runner. It's one of the 4. And I think that just being safe as of right now in terms of picking something like September 5, which like no one's talking about and hasn't, barely shown up in this race all season long in other guilds and categories. I just think that I went with the film that the 4 films that I thought were the safest picks for best picture, and then a wild card in challengers, which I mean that editing for those tennis sequences alone, stuff like that, it was it's like, how do you not nominate this? But I could totally see it.
Well, maybe it's Anora that's the top 4 contender that misses because he did his own editing.
That's the other thing too. I did think about that. They don't like that, Eric. No, you're absolutely right too. And
also, the editing is the least accomplished part of the movie.
It's the least,
the editing undoes some of the good work that they're doing.
No, for sure. I mean, I did think about that as well, but also too, like if Anora misses that, and it's already had a rough going over the last couple of weeks, if it misses that on Oscar morning, then oh boy,
I may be willing to change and drop Anora and put the Brutalist in.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh,
maybe.
It's conceding. Okay.
But this is also a place where Civil War might be able to.
Yes, because it hit the ace.
This is where they could do it. They got ace.
Yeah.
True.
Eric, do I sound crazy with talking about The Substance potentially as a spoiler here?
No, absolutely not. That's a movie that could overperform like crazy.
Yeah.
I have it 7.
Would it be overperforming or performing exactly the right amount?
Right.
I don't know. I'm trying to respect the balance.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Was I the only one that had a complete unknown in the 5?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have that like just on the outside.
That is an interesting film in this wrinkle as well. I think September 5. Eric, I love you, but
that. I love it though.
That movie has not done anything.
It's not about what you love. It's about what you think will get nominated.
And I just I just feel like no one's talking about it. But it is a very edited film. That is for sure.
Well edited.
Well, the film's editor has been. I swear to God, no one is more active on social media, especially Instagram, than that goddamn editor.
Mark, quick, pronounce the editor's name.
The editor for what?
September 5.
Hans-Jörg Wiebrich.
Cool.
I don't know. Is that
I'm sure we'll get a tweet about. I have no idea, and if you just offended some people in another country, that's on you.
There's a letter in there that I don't even know.
Wait till we
get
to original screenplay, and we can talk about Coralie and how to pronounce that last name.
Well, what's funny, Eric? Because it's that time. Best original screenplay. I think is it Mark? Mark, is it your turn?
Okay. I don't know.
So. Okay, go Mark.
All right,
I don't know.
This is tough. I have Anora, A Real Pain, The Brutalist, The Substance, and All We Imagine Is Light.
Eric?
5 for 5 with Mark.
Okay. Karen?
I don't
know. I also have 5 for 5.
Okay.
And yeah. Yeah. I'm like, okay, what am I getting wrong here?
It almost feels too easy.
Yeah, exactly.
All We Imagine Is Light one, though. I don't know.
We have seen it before.
I am not 5 for 5.
Okay.
Shocking.
Anora, The Brutalist, A Real Pain, The Substance. I do not have All We Imagine Is Light. I do have Hard Truths.
Yeah, it's a good pick.
Yeah.
I have Hard Truths because I was able to be at Q&A for Hard Truths before everything happened in LA, and they also had a ton of Q&As this past week in New York for that film. If you believe a certain thing is going to happen in another category, you have to have this as well. I'm not saying whether I think that that's happening yet or not. I'm just saying that is what you have to believe. Now, All We Imagine Is Light is definitely a film that I have as an alternate. I have 2 alternates, All We Imagine Is Light and Challengers. Would be lovely to see husband and wife get nominated back-to-back years, especially for one of the best screenplays of the year in Challengers. All We Imagine Is Light, though, I totally understand where all of you are coming from. We have seen this before multiple times over the last couple of years. I don't know necessarily if this is like Anatomy of a Fall or like The Worst Person in the World, where those collected a lot of screenplay wins along the way. Now, All We Imagine Is Light has collected a lot of Best International Feature wins. That is definitely for sure. But I just went, maybe it's safe to go with Mike Lee, who is an Oscar favorite, but has missed at other places. But I just had a feeling that, you know, just when in doubt, and I was a little on the fence, just go with old reliable Mike Lee in the category. Erik, what do you think?
I mean, for that fifth spot, yeah, I was toying with Hard Truths Challengers and All We Imagine Is Light, because that's the fifth spot.
Yeah.
I feel like it's pretty hard to argue that we have solid four and then fighting for the fifth spot.
Yep.
And Challengers would love for it to happen. It's even too adventurous, I think, for the Academy. The thing that held me back for Hard Truths, because that,
I know what you're going to say.
what I had in there is he missed the BAFTA long list.
There was that, and
Like-
it's also Bleecker Street. Yeah.
Yeah. But that BAFTA long list miss was just like, how is this even happening?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
And so I landed on All We Imagine Is Light because of its ineligibility in international feature film, where it's won the most critics prizes, as the best chance to reward it. It's not like Anatomy of a Fall, though. So it's different in that, because that movie had obviously picture, director, actress. That's not going to happen here. That it's different. This is just an isolated thing that, between this movie and Seed of the Sacred Fig, those were the two movies out of Cannes that were going to kind of be able to find their way outside of everything that was Emilia Perez. And obviously Seed only got the LAFCA director win, which was sort of it was a bit of a smoke and mirrors there, because that's not happening. And I think it tricked people a little bit to kind of like put him in the top 5 for a little while. But it was really just kind of between, for me, those two movies that were going to battle for some placement here. And yeah, I just went with All We Imagine Is Light.
What's going to be real interesting too is when the Writers Guild nominees come out, because Brutalist, The Substance, All We Imagine Is Light, and Hard Truths are all ineligible for that list, along with September 5 and Seed of the Sacred Fig. So you're going to have a Nora and a Real Pain probably with WGA, but then what? That's where I think challengers could get into that, because there's, like, a lot of the big competition around it is ineligible. You might even see like Saturday Night or The Apprentice get in here, because A Different Man and His Three Daughters are also ineligible. So a lot of the fringe and 5 front runners are going to miss there. So what's going to get in?
I have Anora, Civil War Challengers, Real Pain, Saturday Night getting the WGA nominations.
Yeah. And I'd probably have Anora, A Real Pain, Challengers, Saturday Night, and The Apprentice. I don't know.
That's rough. Karen, what do you think of the category?
I don't know. I don't know. I went with what seems like just the most straightforward, and I see an argument for some other things. I don't know. Right now, where we're at in the race, I just kind of have to go with what feels like the easiest. So,
Oh, that's fair. I think when in doubt, just go with what sounds right. And if there's surprises to be had, then there would be surprises to be had.
I mean, I would welcome a couple of surprises. I would love the Academy to do something as cool as Challengers.
Yeah, that would be it, right?
Mhm.
Is like if you could have a film like that break in, if it can break into like what we talked about, Erik, with maybe editing, if it could break into song and score, that's four. Maybe then it has enough support. But then again, this movie should have been pushed this entire season, had a real campaign. These performances that we'll talk about, that we should be talking about, but we won't be talking about a little bit later, should have been in massive conversations. It just doesn't make it never made any sense why this was the movie of the first half of the year. It felt like, and just didn't get the respect. Maybe that's just the studio that always lets it down. Anyway, adapted screenplay. Who's adapted screenplay? Who's next? Erik.
All right. I've got what I think is the pretty obvious winner in this category at number one, which is Conclave. Then Amelia Perez, Nickel Boys, A Complete Unknown, and Sing Sing.
Okay.
Although that fifth spot's tough for me.
Karen?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have the same top four. That fifth spot has been like, what do you do with that? And there's so many there. I mean, there are a couple I would love to see happen that I know will never happen. Like, Nosferatu. That's not going to happen. I know. I think Sing Sing would be awesome. What I currently have in my number 5 is really just because of looking at the entire spectrum. It doesn't feel like it should be there, but it also feels weird not to include it. So I have Wicked.
Okay.
Yeah, I have the same 5 as Karen. Conclave, Amelia Perez, Complete Unknown, Nickel Boys, Wicked.
Okay. I have Conclave, Sing Sing, Nickel Boys, A Complete Unknown, and Dune Part 2. I am going to go with the old adage. Till the musical is nominated in the screenplay category, I'm not picking it. I said it all year long off mic, and I'm going to say it here on the final prediction. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong that the musicals get into the screenplay categories. Maybe it's against logic and wisdom, but we've seen it happen before.
You sound like an old MAGA neighbor on a Facebook podcast right now.
Let me tell you something about the old days.
Wrong, libs.
From the old day, back in my day, we didn't nominate musicals for best screenplay. All they did was sing the dialogue. You know what I mean?
What I think is hilarious is, for as much as you supposedly dislike Dune Part 2, how much you're like, you have it everywhere.
No, I don't. I don't have it everywhere. I have it missing.
You have it in places where it's like, I don't know. Is anybody talking about Dune being in screenplay here?
Yeah, I have it in the 7 spot with Sing
Sure,
Sing.
absolutely.
Just missing.
Yeah,
out.
my 6 and 7 is Dune and Wicked.
Honestly, like the other thing too is like Sing Sing could totally miss here. Nickel Boys could totally miss here.
Nickel Boys is missing here.
Agreed.
This is where it's not missing.
Yeah, Nickel Boys. This is its best shot.
Yeah,
is screenplay.
We're probably getting a women talking Part 2 here.
Yeah, and WGA, like I mentioned in the other category, you lose Conclave, Amelia Perez, Sing Sing, The Room Next Door, The Wild Robot, a couple others.
Mm-hmm.
But so that's where I think Wicked, and these WGA nominations, I believe, are still supposed to come out tomorrow, Monday the 13th, right before the deadline. So I'm going to guess that Wicked gets that WGA, and that might help. If it's on the fringe.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I don't know. Just
when
in doubt, last time I went with no. I mean, like that's the I don't think I'm not saying that this factors into it, but like this feels like last time with Dune, where everybody said it's not going to get in, and then it did. That book is not easy to adapt, and it's and I don't know. I'm just worried about the musical. That's all. But I totally think Amelia Perez could be the one that kicks it out of any of them, because I think Amelia Perez is the stronger of the two films and the more original concept on paper than something like Wicked. That would be my 6 there. But,
Well, and I mean, I have both Amelia Perez and Wicked in, which is weird
Yeah.
Like I completely acknowledge that is weird. Both of those being, where they're positioned currently for Best Picture, and I don't know. For me, I think this is the year that a musical gets in here, and I think it could very well be both of them.
Yeah. If Kushner couldn't get in for West Side Story, I don't know how both of them get in, and that's somebody that the branch loves. So, could be wrong. I probably am. It's okay.
I mean, both musicals getting in would be pretty wild.
That would be. But it's
Mhm.
also a crazy year, folks. It's crazy.
It also, and I'm sure we all know this, but I'm going to say it out loud, is when you're doing your predictions, how I do it, and I think many of us do it, is you're kind of building a narrative to what you have in the major categories. So that's why, like when Ryan mentioned that he had Hard Truths, I was thinking, and he got to it before I could say it, you better have Marianne in there then. Marianne, whatever it is.
You with names today.
I know, I never get them right, but that's the narrative. That's the narrative you're kind of drawing there, right?
Yeah.
You kind of have to have both, I think, at that point.
I think you have to have you have to have a story, right?
Yeah.
You got to
tell. Where I have Amelia in picture, I have to have it in screenplay.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
And that's my argument with Wicked too.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if that's, I mean, and musicals can show up without screenplay and without director.
Yep.
Because everybody knows musicals direct themselves. But it just,
they do.
In
That's
this year,
actually
it just
an
feels
uncommon fact. Yeah.
In this year, it just feels unlikely for all of that.
Exactly. I don't know.
It's crazy that now we're almost at 100 years of Oscars. Only 12 musicals have gotten screenplay nominations.
Mm-hmm.
Total.
Yeah, that is odd.
But it's more than zero.
That's true.
Well, it is.
Do we know the statistic when the last musical to be nominated for a screenplay Oscar was?
The like for adapted?
Yeah. Chicago? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, was it Chicago?
Yeah.
Well, original it was La La Land, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I know. And these are both adaptations.
So we'd be going like back to the 60s.
Yeah, before that.
With a lot of these categories with Best Actress, screenplay, adapted screenplay.
We're gonna get there.
We're gonna go back in time.
Oh yeah. Gotta go back in time. All right. Best supporting actor. Karen, start with you.
I have Kieran Culkin, Yura Borisov, Edward Norton, Guy Pearce, and Jeremy Strong.
Mark Johnson.
Same five.
Mark Johnson has the same five.
A little different order, but same five.
I don't have mine in order, by the way.
Oh,
I just am doing mine alphabetically.
Okay.
Okay. Mine's in order of like what I feel is like likelihood to last. So my order there would be Culkin, Norton, Pierce, Borisov, Strong.
Okay. Erik?
My order is Culkin, Borisov, Pierce, Norton. Oh, this is so hard. I have Clarence Macklin in, which is insane because he missed SAG. But it's probably Jeremy Strong, who is really, really good, and I would love if he got in. Just for anything, just to have him and Culkin like to continue having to battle each other. For right now, I'm gonna stick with Macklin, unless it changes in a couple of days. We'll see. Who cares?
Okay.
I would love to see Macklin in. That would be so good.
I have Kieran Culkin, Yura Borisov, Edward Norton, Guy Pearce, and Denzel Washington.
God damn it.
They have nominated this man for Roman J. Israel Esquire.
Got a SAG nom, though, for that.
I know, but it's Denzel Washington.
He's never gotten in without a SAG nom.
He's going to now.
We'll see about that.
BAFTAs are going to nominate him. Watch.
I
Right.
want him to get BAFTA nominated and then miss the Oscar.
I know
That would be wild. I do think number 6. I do think number 6 is Jeremy Strong.
my 6 is Washington. So
I don't think that
Same.
Clarence Macklin is happening. I think it's down to six people for this award. I just went with Denzel Washington because he is Denzel Washington. I think that Strong could easily get in. He's campaigned. He's talking to people. He's out there. The Succession boys are all over the place. SAG nomination for him this past week. But it's Denzel Washington, guys. I just for some reason, I don't know. It might just be a little stubbornness on my point, but also at the same time, if you love Gladiator, or even if you don't love Gladiator, the number one thing everyone says about that movie is how great Denzel Washington is. And he's just Denzel. He just he's gotten in for some weird shit before. So I am not going to count him out, even though it's clearly more likely Strong, but I'm going to stick with Washington just as we're getting down to the buzzer here, which I don't think that's far off.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's far off either. But we're going to encounter this in each of these acting categories where you're going to look at your lineup and go, there's 4 first timers here. Where is the familiar vote that these people we have seen many times go for? Where is the familiarity? Because there's one category that has tons of returning nominees and a winner, but most of them are first timers.
Yep.
And it's going to be kind of funky. And again, we have to think about the state of a voter right now, which is a pretty bad one.
Yeah.
And where, I feel like it's going to be probably the lowest voter turnout since 2020.
Yeah.
And what
Easily.
does that mean? Who gets in because of that? Familiar faces and people that have been nominated before, or a ton of first timers?
Yeah. And that's why
it's great for Denzel Washington. It's great for Ed Norton in this category.
Yeah. That's why I went with, Norton's been just getting everything at this point. And he's been surging. That movie's been surging. I just went with Washington because it's a familiar name. And when in doubt, I usually just tend to pick the Oscar winners or favorites that the Academy has shined a bajillion nominations before. It's no different than, where it's some other actress versus Meryl Streep, and it's just Meryl Streep because it's Meryl Streep. He's Denzel Washington. He just won the Medal of Freedom. I know that doesn't particularly matter in an Oscar race, but it's like it shows the power of how big of a star he is in this whole thing. So, and I don't know of the component about The Apprentice. While yes, it has shown up at these places, there is still a lot of feelings towards the election and the oncoming, inauguration of Trump, and I don't know how much people want to embrace that film as well. And even regardless of how good those performances are, we've heard of the Sebastian Stan thing where people did not want to talk to him on the actors on actors thing. Does that translate over into, it doesn't matter how good Jeremy Strong is, how good Sebastian Stan is. Do we even want to associate this movie at all in our votes? And that is something legitimately I think you have to consider as well. And so therefore, I think that helps Washington and Clarence Macklin, because Clarence Macklin is being called the next Brando by Jane Fonda at events. So it's a real thing, Mark. That
was a moment.
That was a moment
that happened.
That's why we don't skip our medications.
Yes,
it was very,
very much that.
Let's get you to bed, Grandma.
Yeah, exactly. For sure.
That was tough.
All right.
Anyway,
Mark Johnson.
Love you, Jane.
Love you, Jane. Mark Johnson, Best Supporting Actress.
I don't know about you guys, but to me, this is the hardest category of all 23. It is sheer madness, and I expect maybe get 2 out of 5 on this right. So
Totally.
there are what's that?
I agree.
Yeah, it's brutal. There are 3 that I am pretty confident that I'm going to stick with, which are Zoe Saldana, Amelia Perez, Ariana Grande Butera. Is that how you say her hyphenated name?
Look at you
For
saying
Wicked.
a full name.
And even without the SAG, I'm sticking with Isabella Rossellini from Conclave.
Yep.
The 4-5 is where, holy shit, it could be any combination of like 7 different actresses. So for me, I kind of narrowed it down to, again, best picture players. And again, the narrative, which we'll talk about in a minute with actress, I went with Margaret Qualley for The Substance in 4 because of what I have in actress. And that's kind of like I'm somewhat confident, but the 5 spot I'm probably going to change. Right now I have Felicity Jones for The Brutalist. I really wanted to go Monica Barbaro or Jamie Lee Curtis or Danielle or Selena or Ingenue. There's so many. But right now I have Felicity because of that second half. She's kind of becomes one of the main parts of that. So that's my 5.
Erik?
So, I mean, I echo everything that Mark just said. I feel pretty comfortable in my top 3, which are the same top 3 as Mark. But yeah, then it is an absolute free-for-all. And as competitive as Best Actress really is, it's in a different way than this is.
Yep.
Completely different. This feels like throwing a dart at a board. And if you get all 5 of these, I don't know how much of it is predictive, intuitive talent as much as absolute sheer luck.
Yep.
So with that, I've gone with Jamie Lee Curtis and Monica Barbaro.
Okay. There you go.
Karen?
Madness.
I went with Monica Barbaro and Margaret Qualley.
Okay.
Yeah.
The same top 3 though.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
But for me, because I actually was looking at Jamie Lee, I think she is one of the best parts of The Last Showgirl, but I'm looking at those other categories and it's that building a narrative thing. And I just, to me, Margaret Qualley is a package deal with Demi Moore. And I feel like either they both get in or neither of them do. So
Karen and I are 5.
I see it very differently, but that makes perfect sense.
Karen and I are 5 for 5.
Okay. Which was again Qualley.
Saldana, Grande, Rossellini, Barbaro, Qualley. Now, this is where I think The Brutalist misses something. Because
I hope so.
The second act of the film is the complaint for most people. That is, of course, the act that features Felicity Jones. And that is a character, as much as I love that film, I wish another actress had played that role because I think
I'd rather be Felicity Huffman than Felicity Jones.
Danielle Detweiler, that she got in where at SAG.
Yeah.
That feels very much like the last time we played this game with her, where she's going to show up there and that's the end of the party. Aunjanue Ellis Taylor, that movie CCA, that's it. Don't see that happening as well. Jamie Lee Curtis, I've got some shit to say about her. I think she is good in the film, but that little viral clip of her going out there and saying that what's going on in California is that in a connection to a genocide is something that has started to form online. And I understand it's an online thing, but that was at a screening with people, with voters. And you start hearing things like that. Plus, also to Karen's point, what other nominations does that movie have for it? This is not Everything Everywhere All at Once, where she coattailed her way all the way to a win. And really pushed that film to get there at that point. I think she loses steam, and I do not think she's in a strong enough film like A Complete Unknown, which Barbara was able to get that SAG nomination along with the ensemble nomination, which was, I think, really telling for that film.
Yeah.
And then I've always thought that if More and the Substance is popular, Margaret Qualley's getting in there as well. I don't think that they're a 100% package deal, but I do believe that if one is our potential winner down the road, it would make sense that that performance, which is all about balance and sharing, and they're on the stage presenting at the Globes together and all that, it makes sense for her to be nominated as well. And so that's where I'm kind of at. They're best picture, all these nominations that I have, A Complete Unknown, The Substance, Conclave, Wicked, Part One, and Amelia Perez. Those are all films that are in the best picture race. And so those single nominations, I just don't think are going to happen this year. Um, but also wouldn't be surprised if Amelia just pulls two out of here and gets Selena Gomez. I know that they have been pushing that. That's the one that they've been trying to push the most out of that film, out of any category. They have been trying to get Selena Gomez nominated. Hasn't happened. Didn't happen at SAG. If they love Amelia Perez that much, and that does happen, as is a massive sign of strength, I believe, for that film, is if it pulls 3 performance nominations on the Oscar morning, not just the 2 that we expect it to get potentially. Thoughts? Am I crazy to believe that?
A little bit.
Okay.
A little bit. And part of the reason for me is looking at these groups collectively by their ages.
Yeah.
And
that's really young.
A supporting actress lineup of very, very young, and by Hollywood standards, I mean anybody under 40 is very young.
Yeah.
That feels tough. That feels I don't buy a Grande Butera, Gomez, Barbaro, Qualley lineup, and then having one veteran,
well, I don't have that.
Whatever, like any comedy, even 3 is like pushing it.
That's I think then what helps my number 6, which would be Felicity Jones, who is a previous nominee.
42, though, right?
Yeah.
But the Jamie
right
Lee
over the age
Curtis
line
thing is obviously this isn't a situation that would ever happen if she weren't already a previous winner just 2 years ago. She wouldn't be the type of it just wouldn't really happen.
Yeah.
She is an overwhelming presence.
She is
both in the film and on the campaign trail in a way that worked very well for her the first time. I find it pretty repellent for the most part. And I'm not a big fan of her campaign style. I do not like her in the film either. But I am not a voter.
Yeah.
And I know many that love her and think she is the best part. And that's what I go off of. That's what I have to think about.
I just think that.
But I also don't think, and this will be obviously a precursor for what we're going to talk about in a minute, that she doesn't have to be directly connected to Pamela Anderson the way that I don't think Qualley has to be directly connected to Demi Moore. I think there is a world where they exist without each other.
I would like to clarify what I meant when I said that I feel like Qualley and Moore are a package deal. To me, I do think that either one of them can be dominated without the other. I just think that it shows the strength of the film and how much the Academy is embracing it. It makes sense to me that either they both get in or they're both out.
No, I totally agree with you,
That's what
Karen.
I mean.
I feel like, though, more when we talk with actress, that seems to be heavier more for a Demi consideration. It would be kind of a wild morning if Margaret Qualley got in and Demi Moore didn't. But we can talk about that here in a minute.
I know it's not an apples to apples comparison, but we did kind of run into this with Natalie Portman and Mila Kunis in 2010, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
Mila Kunis got everything. She had every precursor, and then
That's the other thing too, is you gotta, I mean,
and she was, for all intents and purposes, another side of Natalie Portman.
yes. There also is every year there is someone that gets, or it usually is, maybe not every year, but there's someone that gets everything,
Many,
and
many.
then they
Sure.
miss. So, maybe it is quality, maybe it's one of these others, who knows? But those top two, and I would agree with you,
Three.
Mark. Those top three really do. No, I agree. Like, even though Rosalie missed SAG, which is kind of nuts.
That was
Um,
honestly a big surprise.
Honestly, and going back to supporting actor real quick, it has been wild
And
that
Tucci,
Stanley Tucci has not been a contender or a real thing in supporting actor. It's sitting right, that fifth spot is sitting right there for him, and he has
well,
scenes
then
and
maybe he
everything.
is the fifth spot.
Maybe
Yeah,
he
wait
is,
for
Maybe
it.
he is.
Wait
maybe
for
he
it.
is, but I haven't seen it. You know what I
Well, can we
mean?
also talk about, in the supporting actress category, the fact that two of the names we're talking about are the only ones that are actually supporting performances? Can we talk
Right?
about that?
Yeah, because
That's why
our
Isabella has to
projected
make it.
winners, our projected winners at this point for either of those categories in the supporting are leads. And even
Mhm.
if you swap out Ariana Grande, that she is a co-lead in that film as well. So,
Mhm.
yeah, it's
So I
people.
have
I
an
think.
announcement.
Oh, Mark, what?
I have made a change in this category live on air.
Oh, here we go.
Live for everyone to hear.
Here we go.
So my logic with Margaret Qualley putting her in because of where I have Demi made me just realize I maybe should do the same with Monica because of where I have Timothy. And I already didn't feel very good about Felicity in the first place, and just talking that through made me remember how much I disliked the performance. And so I'm going to pull Felicity out and put Monica Barbaro in, which I think that means I have the same five as Karen and Ryan now.
Yeah,
I
I
believe
think
that
so.
is correct.
Yeah.
Way to jump on the bandwagon, Mark.
Yeah.
You got me.
I
I'm
got
in.
you, buddy. I do still think though that Felicity Jones totally get in per Eric's
She's my six. She's
Absolutely.
my six.
Eric's logic.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I think that this category is also very easy. I think this might have been the other category that Eric was talking about. Best actor. I believe we all have the same five, or
I'd be
maybe I'm
shocked
wrong.
if we did not have the same five.
I would be shocked if we didn't.
But let's see.
I will kick this
Yeah.
off.
Uh-oh, Karen's. I think she's
Karen's. I don't think Karen.
Karen's got a
no.
sneak.
Okay,
We'll see.
I will kick this off. I have Timothy Chalamet, Adrian Brody, Ray Fiennes, Coleman Domingo, and I have Daniel Craig.
We should have each said one name and then let the fifth one. Or whatever.
All right. Well, then we can say one name because I believe we all have at least the top four.
I
which
have
is
that same five.
Okay. So Eric has the same five as me. I believe the safe picks are Chalamet, Brody, Domingo, and Fiennes. And then both Eric and I have Daniel Craig getting in. Karen, who do you have getting in that final spot?
I don't like how this feels to say. I have Sebastian Stan
Yeah.
For which film?
Four.
for The Apprentice.
Okay. Mark Johnson.
So this is where I do have Craig, but I am really toying with The Apprentice as well for Sebastian Stan because I have Jeremy Strong in the fifth spot,
Okay.
and it doesn't feel right to have him in and him out, or it's, and I know that happens, but like that's really hard to imagine. But I think what hurts Stan, and I think we all know this, is the fact that he has two films. And I know you guys don't believe in vote splitting, but when it's one actor with two performances, if you wanted to support the actor himself, where are people going to align? And I don't know that it's a different man or a better man, whichever man he is. He's both different and better. But yeah, I have Craig for now, and I'll probably stick with it. But it is tricky.
Yeah. It is very tricky. I do agree with you, Mark, because this is a different situation. Eric, we talk about vote splitting not being a real thing all the time. But Mark makes a great point where it's like this year for this this collection of performance, because by this point, if anybody wanted to throw out the whole, oh, this is like Kate Winslet bullshit, they consolidated, and she consolidated down to one performance at the end. It was clearly The Reader, and that was the one that they went with, and that was the one she got nominated in. She didn't get nominated for both. There is a factor for both of these films where A Different Man, almost screwed it up myself. It's a small film. It's outside of him and makeup. There really isn't other categories that it could get into. You have the Jeremy Strong component, him getting in at SAG. But if he was going to get in if Jeremy Strong got in at SAG, why didn't Sebastian Stan get in at SAG as well? It also kind of helps that opinion out as well, too, of like maybe one gets in over the other. It just goes down to, I'm sorry, Karen.
No.
And then I'll kick it over to you. It just goes down to, do they want to nominate him for playing Donald Trump? And I just don't see that happening. And maybe I am wrong. And when we get to next weekend, he gets nominated. But I just feel like not even Strong got the sort of like, we don't want to talk to Jeremy Strong about this. We don't want to talk to Sebastian Stan about playing Donald Trump in an Actors on Actors. And I know that kind of fueled his sort of like his win at the Globes for a Different Man. And you could tell he was a little frustrated up there on the stage, because he was like, thanks for the support, but none of you assholes wanted to talk to me about either of these movies. And I don't know if that kind of also plays off a little. It's like, it's like between the Best Actor speeches, there was one that was clearly great, and the other one was like kind of forgettable. And Daniel Craig is a veteran actor, James Bond and Benoit Blanc, for Christ's sake, in this performance that has been, acclaimed as one of the best of the year. And he hasn't missed, but is he the one that misses because the other four in the category are part of films that are in and around the Best Picture race? And Craig would be the only lone nominee for his film. So
maybe
it is maybe. Well, I mean, what else would the film get?
No, Coleman Domingo could be.
Coleman Domingo could be, yes, as well. Yeah,
I have him as a lone nominee.
Yeah. Well, I have Sing Sing in the screenplay category as of now. But that is a potential. Yes, you're right, Erik, for sure. But as of now, on paper, from what we were talking about today, Craig would, for me, be the lone nominee for his film. So, Karen?
Yeah, I think, honestly, I think that first of all, Vice got like multiple Oscar nominations. So I think the Donald Trump thing doesn't necessarily count out The Apprentice. And I think I resisted watching that movie. I didn't want to sit down and see it. And I finally did. And when I gave into it and watched it, I was just like, oh, this is not what I thought it was. And that's a good thing, actually. But I think that I know that there is that he's got these two separate movies that he's trying to campaign for. I think that his win at the Golden Globes, I think that some people probably were not in love with his speech, but other people were really moved by it. And I think that goes a long way. And so this is one of those areas where the Golden Globes, to me, kind of made me ultimately swap out, because I had Daniel Craig in too. And then based on that, I just thought, I don't know, I could, especially with Jeremy Strong, I could see the two of them coming in together for that fifth spot. So Sebastian Stan ends up in as well, especially because of the fact, and I know we just talked about Coleman Domingo too, but especially the fact that Daniel Craig and that film aren't really like that. The movie's not showing up anywhere else. So that's where I'm like, I don't know. Sorry. I don't know if it necessarily matters either way, because whichever one of the two of them it is isn't winning. So
I want to come back to something we talked about at the start of this podcast, which was with everything going on in LA and whatnot. how much of an influence will the international branch and voters and members, how much will that have on this? And do they give a shit about him playing Donald Trump, or are they interested in that, like almost tabloid-y, right?
That's a good
So
question.
if the international vote possibly weighs in a little more, could that be what gets that Trump performance in? And again, like Karen said, when you see the film, it's not glorifying Trump in any way. It's, I guess, trying to explain how he became who he is, but it's not. I don't think it's glorifying him. And Stan did show up for The Apprentice. He showed up for the BAFTA long list, which I think, again, let's see what BAFTA does. Will BAFTA put him in? Then we may have a more of a discussion here. So I
Yeah.
think that's maybe ultimately where I'll land, is if he gets in with BAFTA, maybe I do the flippity flop. It's really tough between those two.
Well, I mean, yeah,
once Craig got SAG, I was like, okay, we're
No.
good. We're good. Because that was easily going to be the hardest one for him
Yeah.
to get into. But these 5 have been lockstep, basically. So it's hard to deviate from that. With regards to The Apprentice, I think I'm not sure that it's it's not about glorification. I think some people felt that it was a little too sympathetic, especially the first half,
too
because
soon.
he's so weak and feeble and kind of learns the ropes of how to be a monster from Roy Cohn.
Right.
But to me, it's more situational than it is sympathetic. I think the issue is the recency of it, and something like Vice benefited from being far enough in the past that we can reflect on something. I think maybe if Trump had not won this election, we'd be able to have a little bit of that. His presidency would feel not far in the back, but enough to be like, we have moved from that, but we haven't. We're back in it. And I think I don't think that's working in its favors in any way at all. It's working against it it shouldn't, but it is. And I don't know. And I don't think that there is an issue of which Sebastian Stan performance do I vote for. That is to the argument of vote splitting. I don't think that's quite how that would work. It would if you were talking about same performance and is it lead or supporting, which is what happened with Kate Winslet.
Yep.
Or
Scarlett Johansson or Scarlett Johansson. Yeah.
Scarlett Johansson. Yeah. I think that can, find its way. Or DiCaprio with Departed and Blood Diamond.
Yep.
You find yourself where a person can get votes in 2 categories for the same performance.
Well, yeah.
And I think if somebody is going to vote for Sebastian Stan, it's going to be for The Apprentice. Otherwise, A24 would have 4 of the 5 best actor slots. That's not happening.
That's not happening. Not in a million years.
I say that with the caveat of just a couple of years ago, A24 winning all 4 acting awards, which has also never happened before.
Yep.
Right.
That happened. So we got to be really careful about saying what can't happen because it never has. Because every year, each of these little Jenga blocks of statistics gets pulled away. Sidebar, I hope Timmy does statistics on SNL. That would be amazing. Yeah, but I'm also, I'm listening to you guys and looking at your connective tissues of a lead performance and a supporting performance, and when and why they are going to go hand in hand, and how could Jeremy Strong get in without Sebastian Stan? It's like Roy Cohn is a perfect example of somebody who has been a very celebrated character to play because he's one of the most horrifying villains of the 20th century in US history. And he's been dead for 40 years. So there is real distance to a point where he is almost like a cartoon character of evil.
Well, I also think too, back to your point, Mark, about if international audiences or what was BAFTA to do with Sebastian Stan. I mean, well, clearly, if we're going to just go by the, that a little bit by that standard, like Daniel Craig should probably get in at BAFTA. The one that actually seems vulnerable at BAFTA would be Coleman Domingo because Sing Sing completely underperformed on those long lists, and there's a real danger of him missing on the BAFTA. On the BAFTA, was it 5, Eric, or is it 6? 6 for BAFTA for
They
their
have
nominees? They have 6. Okay. Well, I mean, he could still miss. That's still there, but yeah, I mean, I think that the top 3 have been Chalamet, Brody, and Fiennes, and I just think that's we have also seen over like a couple of years ago, um, you know, it just went 5 for 5. They've gone 5 for 5 in this category a bunch from SAG, and I agree with Eric. Like, I do also think too, it's Daniel Craig, and it's his time, and the movie hasn't. It kind of is also a little bit of the Denzel Washington argument I'll make for him. He's a movie star, and if you may not love the film, but everybody loves him. And he actually did campaigning, and he actually did actors on actors, and he actually did Q&As, and he actually did talk about the film, which is, and it's like one of those like, hey, you're doing a serious performance. You're not doing genre stuff for a while as well too. And so, but yeah, it's probably between those 6, but just going with 007 for right now.
Yeah, I mean, Domingo got in for Rustin at
Yes,
BAFTA.
no, he did.
He should be pretty good, I think.
He should be, but I wouldn't be surprised if he missed.
So
I wouldn't.
for me, I'm more curious because I think it's going to be these 5 for BAFTA plus one more, obviously. And is it going to be Sebastian Stan or is it going to be Hugh Grant?
Yeah, is it Hugh Grant?
I think it's going to be Hugh Grant.
So if I got my real wish, it would be Hugh Grant for Heretic in this lineup.
I'm pretty sure he's going to be the 6th spot for BAFTA.
But I don't.
I would love that. It would make me so happy.
It would, except I was kind of hoping he was going to be our get all precursors and then miss.
Yeah. And then miss. And
that would
have
been such an easy call.
Yeah, it would have been a very easy call. Well, it's that time.
You're so Barbara Streisand right now.
Best actress. Eric Anderson. You will go
first.
Why
am I going first?
Because it's your website,
isn't turn.
It? All right. This is
I don't think this is easy. I know.
No, of course it's not easy. And I'm going to preface it by continuing the conversation that we had about the connection between lead and supporting and strengths of films and all of that, because I think for me, there are 2 examples where I think it's going to work. And then there are several that I don't think are.
Okay.
I'm still beside myself that we are in an awards year with Nicole Kidman and Angelina Jolie, and they aren't 1-2 lockstep basically through the whole season.
Wild.
I think it's insane.
It's
yeah. The things that are going to kind of like teeter and shatter depending on how these 5 break out is going to be pretty cool and a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But I'll just get to my 5.
Yeah.
And it's Demi Moore for The Substance, Mikey Madison for Anora, Carla Sofia Gascon for Amelia Perez, Cynthia Erivo for Wicked Part 1, and Fernanda Torres for I'm Still Here.
Okay. Karen.
As much as Angelina Jolie is my number 1 acting performance of the year, and she should be running away with this, I have the same 5 as Erik.
Oh my God.
I know.
Mark Johnson.
I have the same 5 as well.
No way.
Yeah, the Globes. So the 4 feel pretty, I don't know if they feel safe, but I'm not going to not predict more Madison, Erivo, or Gascon. They just, those, it's going to have to be the 5th spot. And the Globe win for Torres, and the fact that, that might be the only televised thing we see. I guess it would be the only televised thing we see before nominations. And she's wildly popular. And the international branch situation we've been talking about, it's really hard. I know Marianne's my 6. So she's right there. But I think
Me too.
Torres, and plus that performance is so good. If you see it, it's a hard one to deny.
Yeah.
And it doesn't escape me that one of the reasons I had stuck with Jolie for so long is it's a biopic.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
The only person in my 5 that's playing a real person is Fernanda Torres.
Yeah.
And when you go beneath that, Nicole Kidman isn't, Pamela Anderson isn't, Marianne Jean-Baptiste isn't. Where do you go?
Kate Winslet for Lee, right?
Damn you.
God damn you, Mark.
I mean, that's the
She was
next
BAFTA
one,
long
right?
listed.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's crazy because Fernanda Torres, this is all she has. She has no SAG, no Critics' Choice. She's not shortlisted at BAFTA.
No,
Her
that's
battle is
crazy.
enormous.
Yeah.
If
But-
she had not won the Golden Globe, I wouldn't have her here. But because she won and gave such a beautiful speech that just really moved so many people and probably drove a lot of people to turn that movie on, that's why I ultimately went with her.
There is, we haven't even really talked about this at all this whole almost 3 hours, and that is the power of narrative that can drive a campaign through phase 1 and into phase 2. For somebody like Jolie, there is / was a wonderful narrative of a comeback. But the real comebacks are Demi Moore and Pamela Anderson. They have those that you can really kind of run away with. There isn't a narrative really of any kind for Cynthia Erivo, who I actually think is slightly vulnerable here, more than Fernanda Torres. I think in reality. Carla Sofia Gascon, obviously tremendous historical narrative. Fernanda Torres's narrative of being, I don't know, the right kind of Nepo baby, which there are several here in this year, is exactly the right kind. It just makes sense. And it's in a way that is nostalgic narrative and not, I don't know, something a little more egregious.
So my nominees, because I have not said mine yet,
Ruin it, Ryan.
Oops, we kind of went on without you.
I'm over here. Hi, everyone.
Okay.
Are not the same as y'all's.
Good.
I have Demi Moore for The Substance, Mikey Madison for Honora, Carla Sofia Gascon for Amelia Perez. I have Fernanda Torres for I'm Still Here, and I have Marianne Jean-Baptiste for Hard Truths. They are two performances that have massive passion right at the gate of voting. We have talked about all these movies, these big tier top nominated movies in Best Picture missing something. I think that the one that Wicked misses outside of just the next category that we'll talk about is also, I could see a world where, and I'm predicting a world where Cynthia Erivo misses for Wicked. I think that most of the giant praise from that movie has come for Ariana Grande, and rightfully so. Of the two, now I get she has the defying gravity moment, and that's the thing that walks you out. But that does not mean that that's the rest of the performance is up to the par of that scene. Now, one scene could probably get you in as well too, but I do agree with Karen. The Golden Globe speech, the narrative that Erik talked about, it's too enticing not to want to go with it. And then the trifecta. I don't know how you can't not talk about Marianne Jean-Baptiste winning the trifecta with the Critics Awards. Her being on the she made it in for the BAFTA long list. I expect her to get nominated. She was able to do Q&As all this past week, and she'll do more Q&As over the next week with Mike Lee. I just have a feeling that maybe it's hedging my bets because I don't want to pick against both. And so I'm just going to pick both Torres and Marianne Jean-Baptiste to get in. So then I'm right at least in one place. I don't care. I do see a world where both get in because they have passion behind them. They really do. And there is always one person, like Erik and I say, that always gets everything and then misses out. And I do think that that could be, and I'm predicting it will be Cynthia Erivo, which would be wild. And it's also going to probably get a bunch of people to come after me for it if they're listening to this. But I'm going with Torres and Marianne Jean-Baptiste. And my number 6 is actually not Erivo. It is Angelina Jolie, because we've seen that story happen before, obviously to a lesser acclaim extent with a Pablo Larraín female-led biopic, where they sort of miss all these things, and then on Oscar morning, Kristen Stewart's right there, and we would play this game of, oh, it could be somebody else or whatnot. Now, granted, Angelina Jolie has not been celebrated to the level critically as Kristen Stewart. She was an overwhelming critic favorite that got in, so there is that against her. So probably it is Erivo at 6, but based on a true person narrative, the past winner, the comeback narrative, there's so much that you're like, how, we all said at the top of this, how is she not in? How is she not competing for a win is the crazy thing about this. So, and then I don't see Nicole Kidman getting in because they never nominate her for the great things that she does over the last couple of years. And Pam Anderson, congratulations, you have your SAG nomination, and that's good for you. I mean, but maybe she could get in if Curtis gets in, and then they just copy and paste over from SAG. She totally could get in. But I still doubt it. I think that the other two have more passion, and I think that that's just a word that has happened over the last couple of years. Is the passionate little groups have come together and coalesced around performances, and I don't think that Torres and Marianne Jean-Baptiste have to siphon votes from each other. I think that they really have their own separate collection of people that love them. But Fernando Torres could have also just been a Globes thing. That's the other thing, because of those 30 out of 300 Brazilian voters in the Golden Globes. You know what I mean? It could have just been that, and we could have all just been like, oh, well, then it's Marianne all along, or maybe it's Angelina. But I'm going to go with Torres and Marianne Jean-Baptiste. Maybe I sound crazy. I don't know. Erik's like, yeah, you are, but you know.
I mean, I think it's
No,
valid.
it's
valid
not crazy.
It's a hedge. I don't mind hedging my bet a little bit. You know what I mean? So, Karen,
Yeah.
thoughts?
I mean, I'm just thinking about I'm still on the Angelina Jolie thing, that just to the point that you made about Kristen Stewart. I think that her missing SAG was why a lot of people were like, whoa, we can't let this happen. And they galvanized to make sure that she got that Oscar nomination. And I don't see that same love and support for Jolie. So
Crazy.
yeah, it is. But I hear what you're saying about Jean-Baptiste. I just don't see that either. I know people that have watched the movie have loved it, but I just haven't seen that really translating into a wider voting body. So
Say wider or whiter.
well, either one, but I said wider.
Well, I will sadly, also sadly say this, and I hate saying this, but to Erik, your point and your comment there, I do not see, sadly, a world where Cynthia Erivo and Marianne Jean-Baptiste get in, because this
And
Academy
Fernanda Torres and Carlos Sofia
Sofia
Gascon.
it would be It would be really tough for that because this academy, and especially in this category, I've shown their indifference to nominating multiple women of color, let alone a category filled with women of color in their category. So, yeah, it would, it would be historic.
It's not just that. There is also a character archetype, because we are in a season where Kieran Culkin won the trifecta and is an absolutely miserable shit of a human in a real pain.
Oh, in a real pain. Oh, okay. well, he's got a bracelet that says that actually too.
And then we have Marianne Jean-Baptiste playing an absolutely horrible person and won the trifecta, yet she is
on the fringe,
on the cusp, on the fringe here,
and he's dominating.
That is an issue of how people see men who get to have a character like that versus women who get to have a character like that.
Yeah.
And I think in this specific situation, it's an even larger one than of a race.
Yeah.
I think it is much more about just women not being able to be like this.
It's a lot of the reasons why people thought that Cate Blanchett couldn't win for Tar. And so, she got nominated, but, Daniel Day-Lewis plays that role. Maybe he wins a 4th Oscar. You know what I mean? So, all right. We'll see how this chaotic category goes in a couple of days, hopefully. Best Director, Mark Johnson. Let's go.
Okay. I'm going to try and pronounce some names here.
Oh, God.
I'm so glad that you're making Mark do this first,
right?
just in case.
I did it on purpose.
All right. I have Brady Corbet.
Corbet.
Damn it, 0 for 1. All right, 0 for 1. Brady Corbet, The Brutalist. Edward Berger for Conclave. Jacques Audiard for Amelia Perez. Don't make me say Amelia Perez the fancy way.
Amelia Perez.
The correct way?
Say it like Sharon Stone.
Yeah, like all French with a Spanish accent. Yeah.
The accent is on the first E, so it's Perez.
Perez.
I can't.
Not Paris. Some people have been calling it Amelia Paris, and I want to punch them in the face. Anyway, continue.
It's Perez. I'm American. Corbet, Berger, Audiard, Baker, and then in the 5th spot, I have Coralie Farjat, I think is how I've heard it. For the
Good job.
Yeah,
I'll accept that one.
Judges will take it.
Close?
Yeah, we'll
There's
take
no
it.
pronunciation on the T, but otherwise you're
Farjat.
good. Farjat.
The Golden Globes gave her a hard G.
Yeah.
And that is totally incorrect.
It was horrifying.
It's Fargiat.
He said Fargeet.
Fargeet.
I was like, oh, you should take that microphone away from that man.
Yeah. Fargeet. Erik.
Well,
here we go.
I actually have the same 5.
All right.
And obviously, I think Corbet, Audiard, Berger, Baker are pretty locked
safe.
in there. Although I'm just getting weird, like Baker snub vibes.
That's not the person. That's not the person I think could get snubbed.
I would not.
I know who you're gonna say, and I'm because that's going around, and I just totally disagree.
Yeah, I think the idea of a burger sub is comical.
Yeah. No.
They want a chicken sandwich. They don't want a burger.
So in looking at that 5th spot, obviously James Mangold getting DGA is a big deal, and it's that movie is surging like crazy. DGA and Oscars going 5 for 5, it is pretty unlikely.
Yeah.
And when you look at kind of overall where people are going and who's getting dropped from the DGA, literally everybody is choosing Mangold. I get it. I just wonder if it's not actually Mangold that gets dropped and that maybe it is somebody else. So yeah.
Okay.
Coralie it is.
Karen?
Was it Coralie or
It's Coralie?
Coralie.
Yeah.
Coralie, yeah.
Coralie Farjat.
like Coraline.
Yeah, you guys are much
Oh, I
more
love it.
optimistic than I am. I've been burned by this category many, 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 many times before. I am predicting a big year for straight white men.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Is Jacques Audiard straight?
Well,
Yeah.
and
Yes. Yeah. And
Really?
yes.
I don't know. Is he? I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah. So I've got ODR, Baker, Berger, Corbet, and Mangold. I went with Mangold.
The DJ5, is that what?
Yeah.
DJ5.
Yeah. It just
Safe.
exactly because of what you just said, Erik, where A Complete Unknown is surging at exactly the right time. I think a lot of people have worked with Mangold. A lot of people like him and like his work, and I think he just it makes sense. I think Farja, as much as I would love to see her in there, and as much as we need, we need someone else in this lineup. But I think that her reward is going to be in screenplay, not in director.
I have the same 5 as Erik and Mark. I do, though, agree with Karen that this category loves to just burn us. I think that I do think that Edward Berger is vulnerable. And I think that Sean Baker is vulnerable. I think the two that are the absolute locks are Brady Corbet, who I believe is just going to be our winner, and Jacques Audiard, who is in a very strong film. I think Honora and Conclave, though, are our other two best picture of the. There's 4 best picture front runners at this point at films that I think could win, and those are the 4. So that's why I have them in there. I think they're just going to get in at this point, but I would not be surprised. I would be absolutely actually surprised if Baker does miss, considering the fact that that movie has been the critical favorite, the Palme d'Or winner, all of those things. This year is supposed to be his, a celebration of him. That movie, critically acclaimed. If he missed, I would be shocked. Edward Berger, I mean, he had a film last time that got a crap ton of awards and he didn't get nominated and it didn't matter. So I could see a world where he is even once again close to the finish line, but doesn't make it in.
Ooh, that's exactly why he's going to make it in.
That's why he could make it. But no, I agree. That's why he does
We're
make
not
it
gonna
in.
let that happen again.
They're not going to let it happen again. The substance in this category. I wish we had more evidence. We have her nomination at Golden Globes and CCA, which are great nominations. They were big surprises on that morning. I said it on the Globe, I think, reactions. The Globe is allowed then somewhere like CCA to go out of their way to nominate a cool film like that in those categories. I think, I don't think that that's like a, handed over to her. I think she's totally deserving. I would love to see her get nominated. It's international. It fits the narrative of that the international fan base or international voting block of the Academy would embrace a movie like this. I would have said Nickel Boys at one point, but its BAFTA long list was like completely disastrous. Its whole season run has been disastrous, and has not been the auteur, even experimental big film that even international audience would take it. Clearly, that is The Brutalist, and Denis Villeneuve's not happening because it didn't happen last time, and it's definitely even worse this time, and it's not happening. James Mangold is interesting. Like you all have mentioned, that movie's surging, but, I totally see him miss too. And, Capadia, For All We Imagine Is Light. This is another place, but I don't think it's happening in screenplay, and I don't think it's happening here. But if it does happen in screenplay, I don't think that it's going to happen here. It didn't happen for Worst Person in the World, a much stronger film, and it missed out there. So I really just think that this is the 5. But to your point, Karen, I never trust them in picking a female director, but they went last year 5 for 5 when Erik, you, me, and Sophia picked Glazer and Justin Trier to get in there, and we knew that was going to happen. We just had a feeling because we knew that where the international voting body felt like where their love was at, and I do think they love the substance. And
Well, both
so,
of those films were just too big. They were too
and there's too
strong.
big. And I think this one's too
It
big.
wasn't like a risky pick.
No,
Easy.
I don't think this is a risky pick anymore. I think it was a risky one at the beginning of the season. I think now it is a contender, not to win, but to get in. And so, yeah, I think she's getting in. And I don't have confidence in it at all because, to Karen's point, they could just go with, Mr. Tambourine Man who directed it, James Mangold, and go 5 for 5 and be super basic. But I just don't see a path for anybody else other than Mangold, which just feels like a hey, Aaron Sorkin, kind of, or guys that have been, I mean, who was it last year? Alexander Payne that missed from DGA, and just like a respected veteran that the international vote's like, nope, thanks, we're good. We're going to go with them.
And I think that's why people have gravitated to Mangold as the DGA pick that misses, because it's his nomination and work here is seen as more basic.
Yeah.
And a DGA pick. But in all of the talk of statistics and history and things kind of breaking down, this is a major category for that, because we haven't had all first timers since 1997. It's been a really, really, really long time. And all season long, we've only had 2 realistic possibilities in Denis Villeneuve or Ridley Scott. And obviously, Ridley Scott fell off a while ago. But Villeneuve definitely has, even though he's got the second most critics wins for the season.
He's not going to get in.
No.
Another person who really should be in this conversation, and it feels so weird that he's not, is John Chu.
Well, I mean,
theoretically, yes, he should be in.
But also, Karen,
he should.
To be fair, he felt also like a guy that gets in a DGA and then misses on Oscar morning as well. So,
DGA is where he should have been.
Yeah, and that's where I was like, well, he's not getting an Oscar nomination. If he couldn't even get in there, he's not. Or
Globes.
Right. But that's the thing. And it's like, I mean, I know everybody has different opinions about Wicked. I personally loved it. I thought it was a great movie. And I think that what he's able to do with all the technical elements, plus the story, plus the performances, like he directed the hell out of that movie. And it's so great. And the fact that he's not getting the director attention just feels, this is the kind of thing that frustrates me so bad about. And that comment I made earlier about everybody knows musicals direct themselves, because we see this happen. It's very rare for the director to get nominated, and especially to win. And I will never understand that, because I think musicals are incredibly technically difficult to pull off, and especially to do them well.
Mm-hmm.
And to have one that did all of that well and also made a lot of money. And the fact that even with all of that, John Chu still isn't a serious part of the conversation is such a strange fact to me.
Well, to be fair, we are predicting one director to get in that did direct a musical. But also, I think with the part 1 of it all as well. Now, this is not guaranteed, because look at Denis Villeneuve. It does not guarantee that he's going to get nominated again, be in the hunt next year. Mm-hmm. I think that also factors into it a bit as well. Villeneuve did not get in for Dune Part 1, no matter how many technical achievements and Oscars that thing won. And Wicked is a top tier contender for sure. It's in the top 5 at least, and we'll have a big nomination day. But it will also miss, most likely, pretty much its director. And yeah, that is something, though, that we probably could have also predicted, because it is a populist film, and it fits into that populist category of a Top Gun Maverick or a Barbie, where it also feels like those movies directed themselves as well. And, so it came down to those the top 4 contenders for me, and then Coraline. But Mangold is surging at the right time, and people are loving that movie, and it has become a little hit. And wherever you have Timmy at, that might help it out as well in your best actor pick predictions as well too. Wouldn't be surprised though if Karen is 100% right on this category. sadly. And
I might switch out for my finals.
Yeah.
And just
Yeah,
go
I think
5
that's
for
what
5
you're.
TGA.
Yeah, if you're between Farja and Mangold, you're basically weighing DGA versus everything else because DGA is the only thing Mangold has gotten, and Farja has, or Farja has BAFTA Long List, CCA, and Globes. So it's which you put them on a scale, which you want all three of those or this one. It's hard to bet against
she
DGA.
also has
But
an incredible factor that is a little bit against her. She has the cool factor because the nomination would be so badass and cool that you then go and wonder, oh, the Oscars would never do something like that. You know what I mean? Be that cool, nominating
yeah,
this body horror, blood soaked third act movie. Like, come on. Like, like that would, if they did that, all bets are off. Anything can be nominated at that point. But there
I
is that
think
hesitation with the genre still, right?
yeah,
That I think some have. Yeah, that's for sure.
I think what she has going for her might actually be what you guys think is going against her.
Mm,
I think the fact and part of why I'm predicting her is I don't know, and I know we've been proven wrong many times, but I think if you look at the last several years, I don't know that they'll allow an all male lineup here. I think they'll want to get a female in there. That's why I was kind of toying with, oh God, Pael.
Hey, oh,
Just gonna leave Pael. Yep, I was kind of toying with that too because I do have it in screenplay.
mhm.
Um, but I just think the substance is such a big hit and talked about. I think that'll be the direction they go. So that's
Yeah.
part of why I'm betting on her. Is I'm basically betting I don't think they'll let it be all
I,
men, and maybe I'm
I
making
think
about
I
that.
think
I
to
hear
your
you.
I think to maybe tweak what you're saying, Mark, an all white male lineup, maybe, because they still had an all male lineup 3 years ago, but Hamaguchi got in for Drive My Car. So I think that that's probably more likely what you mean than, you know what I
That's
mean, than anything else. I
that's the
mean, I
thing.
don't,
We had women win 2 years in a row, and then the third year there were no women nominated. So
yeah,
yeah, and that is recent. So yeah, it's
yeah,
totally
it's
within the realm
totally
of
within the realm. No,
possibility that it
That's
happens again.
So very
absolutely
Oscars to
possible.
do too, is
Hmm.
be like, oh cool, we did it. We're
Yeah,
done.
we don't
Yeah,
have to do this again
exactly.
for like 2 decades, and then it's yeah,
Exactly.
and then also it's just. And I love the substance. I think it's a great film, but there is the horror, the genre of it all. It's that I know that people want to be like, "Oh, get over that, Ryan." Like everything everywhere all at once broke down all the genre stuff. It's like, no, it didn't, because Honora's having
Well, we'll
problems,
see.
and and that's like a comedy, and that movie's having problems, and we're talking about it being on the fringe. It's not a traditional Oscar film, even for voters, and so it remains to be seen. I do expect it to do well, but this is the category for it that like would cement that love and that attention. I mean, obviously Margaret Qualley, but we're gonna know by the time I think this category is announced where it's at, because we're gonna have a break, because we always have a break in the nominations, and it's man, it could just be Mangold, which would be so wild. You know what I mean? But it could also be Mangold, Carly, and somebody else misses, like you're talking about, like it's Burger or it's Baker, you know, you know. So
Baker.
yeah, yeah.
Late.
I know. Stop trying to
do
make it
picture.
happen. Yeah, let's do picture.
Hey, let's do picture like Erik was saying with the other category.
Okay.
What do you think
Oh,
about it? Like
do we
going,
each say a name?
or do we? Okay, I was
Because
thinking
we
like,
have things different. I think three
yeah,
of us
okay.
have order, but Karen has alphabetical.
All
So
right.
what if we say the name of the film and then we all say if we have it or not?
All right, I can do that.
Would that
I
be
All
the
think
way to do it?
I think it's going to
I
come
don't know.
down to a couple of films anyway. All right,
Yeah,
let me.
it should
Right.
be just one
Let-
I think we're gonna have the same like 7 or 8, which is
Yeah,
why
and I think we're
let's
going to
get
come down to
those
the final 2. All right.
Yeah.
So I'll read them out, and everybody just say yes or no. The Brutalist,
Yes.
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 Conclave,
Yes.
Yes.
Mark. You have to
Yes.
say yeah. Thank you.
I-
And
okay,
the
I'll say it
listeners won't
twice.
know.
Oh,
We will
all
know,
right.
but the listeners won't. Honora.
Yes.
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 Okay. All right, smartass.
Hear
Amelia
that one?
Perez.
Yes.
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 A Complete Unknown,
Yes.
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 Wicked Part 1,
Yes.
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 The Substance,
Yes.
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 Dune Part 2.
Yes.
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 Okay.
So that's the 8, right?
So that's the 8.
Okay.
All right. Now at this point, we will go one by one. I think that's the right.
Yeah,
I think
that's
okay.
I like
that's
that.
good. Yeah.
Mark, what do you have in your 9 and 10 spot?
This is brutal. I went with a Real Pain in the 9 spot.
Okay.
And in the 10 spot, because of what we've been saying about international, and because I went with it in screenplay, I have All We Imagine Is Light.
Wow. Mark Johnson.
I know. And
Okay.
it pains me to say because I'm not a huge fan of that film.
Okay. Well, that's another discussion for another day. We don't have to talk about that here today. Karen Peterson, you're 9 and 10.
I also have a Real Pain. And for the same argument as Mark, but a different film, I have Nickel Boys.
Okay. Eric Anderson, you're 9 and 10, please.
My 9 and 10 are the same as Karen. A Real Pain and Nickel Boys.
What's interesting is my 10 was Nickel Boys, and I subbed it out earlier today.
My number 9 is A Real Pain. So I think we went
Okay,
9
so
for 10. So we'll
Yeah.
probably be the DGA 9 for 10. And my
PJ.
PJ, sorry. Yeah, PJ.
Presumably.
Presumably. My number 10, because it is a film that when I see people do Q&As, when they're on red carpets, this is a movie they talk about.
Madam Web.
I have it in screenplay and I have it in actor. I'm going with Sing Sing at number 10.
I just popped Sing Sing out to put A Real Pain in.
But I have a feeling that A Real Pain and Sing Sing, they have that small little passionate group. It's the make you feel good tearjerker films. I can be talked off of Sing Sing easily, but I also think that A Real Pain is more likely to happen because it has the supporting actor winner. I think Sing Sing having an abysmal day at BAFTA, not showing up at SAG Ensemble, which is something I totally thought it could get. It needs PGA, otherwise I will make that switch to Nickel Boys, I guess. All We Imagine Is Light is a fascinating choice, Mark, but I just don't feel, I feel like The Substance took the second international wave of voter this year rather than a second international feature. Like it's Amelia Perez and The Substance are the two films from Cannes that people gravitated towards. Does that make sense? And so I think that All We Imagine Is Light, The Seed of the Sacred Fig, maybe they get one nomination. Definitely Seed of the Sacred Fig will get one nomination. Outside of that, I don't see a world where they break through into top 8 categories. And so, I mean, I think it's Sing Sing or Nickel Boys, and I think Sing Sing is a little bit stronger in other categories than Nickel Boys, so that's why I went with it.
What do you do, all three of you, what do you do if Nickel Boys and Sing Sing both miss PGA and something like Nosferatu or September 5 takes that 10 spot?
Challengers.
You would go to Challengers as your 10?
Well, no. What if Challengers makes the PGA?
Sure. Okay.
What if
would you do? What would you do if both Nickel Boys and Sing Sing misses?
I think if
PGA,
and
the other 9 make it. What's that?
I don't think both Nickel Boys and Sing Sing will.
Let's say they
If
let's
they
say,
did and Nosferatu got in based on my other nominations, I would definitely put Nosferatu in for sure.
It's very rare that they go 10 for 10.
Right.
Just did it last year for the first time ever.
Yeah. But that felt more certain, that 10.
Yeah.
Than this does. So it usually is either 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10. Right? Or in the in the 10 years of 10 that we've had. Correct? Yeah. Because we've had the sliding scale before.
If it goes 9 out of 10 and it's A Real Pain, so we all had those 9. So let's
We
say
had
it's the
those
9
9.
we have.
Those are
and
pretty
it's
safe.
it's anything else in that 10th spot. Do you predict are you going to go 10 for 10 with PGA, or what would you do in that case?
I think for me
Stick with what
personally,
you have?
if Sing Sing missed, to your point, Mark,
Right.
then it's done. I don't need to pick Sing Sing anymore because it missed SAG, missed PGA. It's not going to be at BAFTA. It's Domingo and screenplay and probably bust. That's it.
And you'd go Nickel Boys, you said?
Erik has a good point that it could just be a women talking situation, and Nickel Boys is that. Oh, you know, and Orion's had that before, where it's screenplay, but that was a screenplay winner, as opposed to this.
So isn't winning screenplay.
It's not a winning screenplay.
It is probably
second or third, maybe. Complete unknowns right there.
So if Nickel Boys and Sing Sing both missed the 10th spot with PGA and it's anything else, Erik, what are you doing at that point?
Wait, did you say if either of them? If I'm only
Both
looking at the 10 spot?
Yeah.
So I'm saying, let's say 9 out of 10, the 9 we all have in common.
Yeah.
8 plus a real pain. All 9 of those are PGA nominees.
Yeah.
The 10th PGA nominee is anything other than Sing Sing and Nickel Boys.
Yeah.
What do you do for your 10th picture nomination spot?
This is good stuff. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at my breakdown right now of who has.
Is that when you go to All We Imagine Is Light? Is kind of where I'm going.
Part of me, it would depend on what it is, what they end up picking.
Yeah, what is that 10th PGA spot then?
Yeah,
is that, let's say it's anything other than Sing Sing or Nickel Boys? Do you go with that and go 10 for 10 at that point?
Not necessarily.
No, I'm not gonna. No, I think Nickel Boys is in, even though it's very, very low. Okay. I think it's absolutely in.
Okay. So you would stick with Nickel Boys minus the PGA?
Yes.
I don't know. It depends on the film that's there, because it also could just be, I mean, shit, Wonder Woman got nominated before, you know, so it's like, you're like, so it's, no, I'm just saying, like,
too, and that was like, it was a money nomination.
It was a money, yeah. So like a money nom could happen. Like, what if it's like Inside Out 2 or some stupid, something like that.
Okay,
you know
perfect.
I mean? Like,
let's say it's Inside Out 2, because that makes it chaos.
Yeah.
What do you take if it's Inside Out 2?
Well, it's not going to be that. Because the first Inside Out at least had a screenplay nom, so like
he's using that as an example. If that were to happen, what would you pick as the next Best Picture one?
Yeah. I think you know what I would do, Mark. I'm just gonna go with my heart, and I would just pick challengers just for fun, and be okay with missing that goddamn nomination. You know what I mean? Because
I'm at.
Because you just flip a coin at this point. Yeah, because I don't think if it's not Sing Sing, I believe Sing Sing's done at that point. I think it's gonna get in, but I don't. But if it doesn't get in, by Sing Sing. Nickel Boys, you know, I don't have it in a ton of categories. It would be a 2 nominee, maybe 3 nominee film. That's hard. You know what I mean?
I only have it getting 3.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't see it being like a Gladiator 2 situation. I don't see it being, maybe Karen's right. Maybe it's Nosferatu, but you know.
Yeah, that's a perfect late breaker possibility.
Exactly. And that would be genre, but it also would be period, and it would have a ton of text noms.
Nosferatu both being Best Picture nominated
would be wild. You know what I mean? It would be awesome.
It's too much for my brain to.
It's too much fun.
It's a good lineup. That's a good lineup.
It would be a good lineup. I think. Yeah, I will have to explore that in a couple of days' time or a week's time. I mean, at this point, it seems like the Oscar noms and the PGA noms are going to be around the same time. So, because they postponed the PGAs to next week.
Postponed again.
Well, they said they were very vague though. They just
said next week,
sometime this coming week, right?
This coming week, as in Monday through
right. It could be Monday or it could be
it
Monday
would
or
obviously
Tuesday.
be before the Oscars, so I think they're probably just talking to each other because these fires are not stopping. The winds are coming back through Oscar
date.
week.
No, I don't think they need to move the Oscar
There's so
ceremony.
much,
I mean,
yeah, there's so much that would have to happen to move the Oscars that I think that's going to be a very last minute,
Yeah, moving voting is
don't-
fine. That's easier.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you don't have to move the Oscar ceremony. You can
Yeah,
shorten phase 2
Yeah.
Yeah.
to
Just,
extend phase 1
yeah.
to give them time to see the movies. Because once they've seen the movies, they probably know what they're voting to win. They just need to be able to see the movies
Mm-hmm.
to know what to nominate and to
Oh, for
win,
sure.
right?
For sure.
So
Yeah.
extend phase 1 into phase 2 without
Yeah.
changing the end of phase 2 in Oscar day. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we will.
Well, there
Well,
should
no
be an entire month for voting anyway, and not this 5-day bullshit.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's another
SAG
show
has an
again for
entire
another.
month of voting
Yeah.
between the
Well, we have.
nomination stage and
Well,
winners
yeah,
stage.
but like critics groups, we
Crazy.
have like a week or two. It's crazy
not-
that it's only 5 days. It's
No, it
ridiculous.
should be a month.
Yeah.
Make more money though.
We will know more by next week's show. We'll be either giving you live reactions to the nominations, or we will be talking about something else in between. We do not know what will be happening next week. Karen, can you tell everybody where they can find you and all your work on the internet?
Well, you can find some of my work at AwardsWatch.com. And soon I'll be traveling to Park City, Utah to cover the Sundance Film Festival. I'm very excited. But you can also find me on social media. I'm on Instagram, Letterboxd, and Blue Sky at Karen M. Peterson.
Mark Johnson.
You can find my awards analysis stuff on Awards Watch. I do some other writing for the contending. You can see my predictions anytime you want on Gold Derby, and Twitter's probably the best social, or I guess Letterboxd. Mark likes movies.
And Erik Anderson.
Awardswatch.com is where you'll find everything from me. Hopefully, I'm not like moonlighting, doing some kind of weird under the table for, I don't know, anybody. And Twitter awards_watch and Awards Watch everywhere else. Letterboxd, Instagram, Blue Sky, Tubi, Mubu, Poo Poo, whatever, all these other places. I don't know.
You so much sometimes, I swear to
I
God.
know.
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, Blue Sky at Ryan McQuade 77. You can find all my work at awardswatch.com. If you like podcasts, the Director Watch Podcast is every Thursday. And this week we are starting a new movie series over the films of Mike Nichols. And we will, on our first episode, be covering his masterpiece, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, with special guest Louis Fertel. And so we are looking forward for all of you guys to hear that this coming week. 5 stars, iTunes, Spotify, greatly appreciate it. While you're over on the website, please sign up for the newsletter. When Erik puts it together, it's really great and really something. Next week, again, we will be either talking about the Oscar nominations, or we'll find something else to talk about. And we'll just be figuring it out because everything is ongoing. Everything's very fluid out there, folks. So thank you all so much for listening, and we'll see you all next time.